Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Club at the End of This World. I'm Jamin Shively. We'll do a round of introductions in a moment, but first I thought I would plant a little seed in terms of the agenda item I sent out late last night, which is that I propose, and think about any agenda items you'd like to add. We can add them after the introductions. But what I'd really like us to focus on today, I'd like to invite us to consider focusing on today, is our holistic strategy for actually getting it done. Welcome, Dharmendra. Our holistic strategy. And, the elements of this strategy include collective intelligence, which is what we're doing right here, veganism, which has brought actually most of the folks in this meeting together, and that's a very profound statement, actually. Solar radiation management for cooling the planet, and Pacifica, where we're going to be doing major events in the month of February, including a press conference in Pacifica about solar radiation management, veganism, and myriad other solutions. But those are the two biggies, right, for actually cooling the planet in time. Literally, so we're on this exponential overheating tear, right, with 67 self-reinforcing feedback loops, and it's only accelerating, right? So we're in truly dire straits. What we've got to do is come along with a giant Monty Python foot and go bam, collide with that upward acceleration and overheating of the planet, and literally send it in the other direction, right? If I were in the Commonwealth, I'd make the analogy that we've got to hit it with a cricket mallet. Right, Miles?
You could, but we don't really play a lot of cricket in Canada.
All right,
but they do elsewhere.
It's like taking a hockey puck.
A hockey stick, yeah, and a hockey puck.
A Wayne Gretzky hockey puck that's just, taking off like a rocket ship. And Wayne Gretzky going, skabam! And smacking it literally downward in the opposite direction. Okay, that's what's at stake here. That's what's on the table here, right? And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we put together the whole holistic strategy, including the eventual transformation of, I'll just say, the broader currency system, including social currency and all that. And Adam, I'm sure you'll have good things to say about that. But in order to even have time to do all these things, we need to cool the planet very, very quickly. Because otherwise, it cook us to death.
You could also use a baseball analogy.
All right.
I have my Cubs sweater on here.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Right. But
Go Chicago.
Heck yeah. I'm sure Dan will back you on that. Anyway, so the big agenda item I'm plopping on the table is the holistic strategy to actually get all of this done, right? Centered around these different axes: veganism, collective intelligence, solar radiation management, Pacifica, the Sierra Club, etc. So, and I'm happy to give more of an introduction on that after we give our own either introductions or personal updates. And given that there's so many of us, I'm going to request we keep it to under 2 minutes per person. Okay, is everyone cool with that?
Yep.
We can go longer in the discussions that we're going to have, but since some folks have limited time, just wanted to. Okay, so if you'd like to give either an introduction, and I strongly encourage that since a lot of faces are new to a number of folks.
You want me to start?
All right, yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm around 68 years old. I'm from upstate New York, cement country and canal country. And not a whole lot to speak about myself. I'm a Buckminster Fuller fan. Basically, I've studied Buckminster Fuller for years. And I think he has a lot to say even about the situation here. But given that you just proposed that we talk about the radiation management, I just wanted to make one point that I thought of the other day when I was listening, which is that using it in the desert, I think would be a lot less effective because I think the desert already reflects a pretty high amount of light.
Okay, we're having trouble hearing you, Bern.
Oh.
But here's the thing: we're actually not into that topic quite yet.
Okay, all right.
We're just saying, hi, I'm Bern. You know, I'm in New York.
I didn't want to give a whole lot of introduction. That should be enough for now.
That's fine. No, and short and sweet is preferred. So you're doing great, Bern.
Yep. Right. But I'll jump in later on that other subject. You can mute me. I don't have any way to mute myself.
So. I'll do that. And then literally just type your name into the chat window if you'd like to say something. That goes for everyone. If you want to be in the queue for talking, please put your name in the chat window. That goes for introductions right now. So just type in if you want to give an introduction or a brief personal update. Let's try to keep it to under 2 minutes as Bern has. And thank you, Bern, for that, for setting the appreciate it. All right. Who wants to jump in next? No one's in the queue except for Debra. Okay. Debra, followed by Dan, followed by Anne. Take it away, Debra.
Sorry, I thought it was unmuted. I think Adam is in the queue too. Yeah, okay. So I'm Debra Graugnard, and relatively new to the group, I suppose. I just started coming last week. And as Jamin mentioned earlier, I helped facilitate the summit that Sailesh Rao just did back in October for the climate healers. Vegan World 2026 conference, where he interviewed about a dozen people on topics having to do with climate change and veganism and how we're going to keep from going extinct. And that was a lot of fun. And we're going to do another one in March. And so I'm just excited to be a part of it. I've been vegan for a long time, been vegetarian since 1990, and I don't remember exactly when I went full on vegan. But that's, during that time, it went back and forth between vegan, raw, vegetarian, and various things. So I've been pretty committed to veganism since 2012. I don't know if that's even a concern or, people here care about that. But anyway, it's I healed a lot of health issues by going vegan, ulcerative colitis, fibrocystic disease, hypoglycemia, all that fun stuff. So it's been something I'm passionate about. And not to mention coming into the effects of climate change and on the animals and just living a life of nonviolence and compassion. So I met Sailesh in Houston last summer and got really excited about his Vegan World 2026 vision and jumped on board. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Debra. So great to have you here in the wonderful conversation. Next up is Dan, followed by Anne, followed by Adam, and a couple more in the queue after that. So please take it away, Dan.
Yeah, I'm Dan Bader, coming to you from Chicago. I worked in the Chicago Department of Public Health, mental health section, and did community work here in Chicago for about 23 years. I became familiar with the problems we're dealing with on the social club, climate change, exponential climate change, when I heard a presentation by Guy McPherson and Dar Jamail, where I was stunned by the real, these guys sounded totally rational. They seemed to have good evidence that they referenced. And after, checking it out and allowing it to sink in, I realized that there was a very decent probability that what they were saying was correct. And at that time, they were saying, more Guy McPherson, I guess, saying that, he estimated human extinction by 2030, give or take 9 years. This was, again, back in 2015. And it was just very shocking to me, and it completely reoriented me towards looking at the world and things that are going on. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dan. Wonderful. And Dan was a co-founder of the Social Club along with me and a small handful of others. Alrighty, Anne, followed by Adam. Take it away, Anne.
Okay, this is Anne. I'm in South Florida where it's still summer and we just moved here, so this is kind of shocking as the rest of the country is so cold. Just a couple of really short updates. One is that I found a vegan group that is holding a Thanksgiving dinner in a park about 2 miles from our house in Delray Beach, and I'm just really excited to spend Thanksgiving with 200 other vegans. Sounds like a cool thing. And the other is I'm looking for someone who has read Andrew Harvey's book, The Hope, A Guide to Sacred Activism. I'd really like to have someone to chat about this book with. He's talking a lot about the death of the old world and the birth of the new world and what it calls upon each of us to do. And if you're not familiar with Andrew Harvey, he's the mystic who has done an enormous amount of study of Rumi. So there's a lot of, he's written many books and done a lot of work, and he's actually in Chicago. And he has an Institute for Sacred Activism in Chicago. So if anyone has read it, wants to read it, wants to talk about it, please let me know. And glad to be here. Looking forward to this.
Wonderful, Anne. So glad to have you here. Yeah, I'm so glad you reached out at the conference, and wow. So excited to have everyone here. Alrighty, up next for intro is Adam, followed by Sonia. Take it away, Adam.
Oh, hello, everybody. Nice to be here. I've been very busy for the last few weeks. I've just been gangbusters against, doing everything, trying to get this new website of mine up and running. It's a worldwithoutmoney.org. And last night I just had a really good interview by Michael Call. So I'm getting introduced to it. And just to let you guys know that I am not trying to get everybody to end our use of money. That's not what I'm doing. I'm your backup. I'm trying to create a platform for everybody, for people to come to create the vision of a sustainable future for the children of the world. And it's aimed at when the collapse comes. So that's what I'm aiming for. And hopefully before then, everybody will get on board. And then we can have not a collapse of civilization, but we can have a transition, a controlled transition into a sustainable world. That's my goal. And that's what I'm doing. But I'm here to help you guys today. Thanks.
Awesome, Adam. So great to have you here. Next up is Sonia, followed by Miles. Take it away, Sonia.
Well, hello. I would like to say good morning, but here in Florida is 2:30, so good afternoon. Well, I work for the Department of Health. I'm a physician, and I'm also practice public health. It's the first time that I joined this group, and I'm very interested in the climate change effects because we have hurricanes, and 80% of Florida is a coastal state, so we will have problems with sea rise. Also, because of my public health career, I'm very interested in the leading causes of death and morbidity, which all are associated with bad diet. So I think plant-based diets are the solution for not just our climate problems, but also our health problems. And I'm here and happy to join the group today.
Thank you so much, Sonia, my long lost sister. Hermana!
Hi, hermanito.
Great to have you here. All right, we're just doing personal quick introductions, trying to keep it under 2 minutes. I want to welcome my uncle Frank Shively, Dr. Frank Shively, renowned physicist, who I can brag about for hours, but just to keep it brief, he was on the group of Luis Alvarez at UC Berkeley in the 60s, discovering new particles. Remember, they put all those new particles on the map, berkelium, californium, lawrencium, and all that stuff. Anyway, that was Uncle Frank's handiwork, along with a number of colleagues. His work is cited in no less than 2 Nobel Prizes. So anyway, we are in the presence of greatness. Thank you, Uncle Frank, for being here with us. And you can give more of an intro if you'd like. Next up for the intros is Miles, followed by Amira, who I will read. Please take it away, Miles.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be. My name is Miles Flegg. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Calgary is also known by some indigenous names, one of which is Mohkinstsis, or you can also just point to your elbow if you're saying I'm going to Calgary, because that's the sign language for the confluence of the Elbow River with the Bow River. So I'm on Treaty 7 territory of there's numbered treaties across Canada, a lot of Canada anyway, and I'm on Treaty 7, the traditional territory of the Niitsitapi, and includes the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai, and the Tsuut'ina and Nakota peoples. I will probably be dropping away shortly, but I've always enjoyed being part of this social exchange, and it may seem that this friendly conversation that we share every week maybe isn't particularly moving forward or accomplishing anything concrete, but there's a tremendous spin-off in ideas and sharing. So this afternoon, I'm heading downtown to the main library, and I participate in a group called the Calgary Alliance for Common Good, and I'm on their reconciliation action team. And so I can share when I go to groups like this concept of solar radiation management. I can share the concept of vegan. And it's, it ripples out, right? I don't identify myself as vegan because I have occasions where I'm not eating something that's totally vegan. I try. So I'm actually moving to saying vegan for life, in a sense, as opposed to saying, we need to move to veganism because of the ism part of it. Seems a bit too ideological, but nevertheless, people like the indigenous people, they ate their local animals to certain degrees, but they always did it with reverence. So one of the things I learned from Professor Leroy Littlebear of the Piikani is he said, it's always to think about all of our relations. And I thought, wow, that is something that's never really occurred to me, because in this European mindset of capitalism, it's not looking at the planet as a relation to us, another person or an animal even being, of intrinsic worth. But, I'm changing that attitude. So my thought is, I'm not going to expect the traditional people of what some people call Turtle Island, to say, well, you've got to go vegan too, but to recognize that they actually lived in harmony, and they had reverence for the animals that they used or consumed, and they did it with reverence. So anyway, I'm sorry if I've gone too long. Thank you.
That's quite all right, Miles. Thank you so much. Beautiful stuff. All righty. I want to welcome my queen, Melissa. Welcome, sweetie. She's working away, so may just be listening in, but please jump in whenever you feel like it. And welcome, Suzanne. So great to see everyone. All right. Next up is Amira, and there's no one in the queue. Hey, Suzanne. And there's no one in the queue after Amira, so if anyone else would like to jump in, please do so after I read from Amira, who's communicating mostly by text with us. My name is Amira. I live in Mesa, Arizona. I am a vegan and an animal rights activist for all animals, the planet, my body, mind, heart, soul, and consciousness. Beautiful, Amira. So glad you're here. Welcome, sister. All right. And Melissa, please jump in, sweetheart.
Hi, everyone. So good to see all of you. Looks like there are a lot of people participating today, which is so awesome and inspiring. Yee! I just want to honor the Duwamish people and the First Nations whose land we're on. We're on Whidbey Island, so I want to honor the Lummi tribe and the Tulalip tribe. My quick update is I just finished a third salmon luminary today. Yes! And those are going up in the Langley Whale Center as part of an activist or artful advocacy project for the Salish Sea, the Chinook salmon, and the orca whales. So I'm super excited about that. And on Friday, Jim and myself, and I think Nolan's joining us, will be participating in the Langley Arts Commission's conversations about climate change. So looking forward to that. So sending you all much love. Over and out.
Beautiful. Thank you, sweetheart. And thank you for joining us. And from Dharmendra. Dharmendra writes, who's also communicating by text. Hi, I am Dharmendra. I also live in Mesa, Arizona. I am vegan and an animal rights activist. I am very into radical collective intelligence, which I call accelerated collective evolution. Beautiful, Dharmendra. Welcome. Love it, love it, love it. I see radical collective intelligence as basically kind of like the mind axis of the accelerated collective evolution. And then there's the heart, oh, okay. So, you see it all. Okay, you're right. It's all integrated from mind, heart, soul, gut. Okay, I got it. Beautiful, Dharmendra. No, and look at this modality of collective intelligence, right? He's miming around like a gorilla or something, but we all get it because we're all primates. So anyway, so fantastic. All right. Any other intros or personal updates before we get into topic land? And you can always do an intro later. Nolan, jump in.
Hey everyone, I'm Nolan. I'm in Seattle, Washington right now, but I'm actually about to head up to Whidbey Island here. So I'm mostly going to be listening today because I got to drive and run around. But I'm super excited to see a bunch of people hanging out, and really excited to listen in. Good to see all of you.
Awesome. Welcome, Nolan. Beautiful. Evan, go ahead. Yes.
Hi, my name is Evan, brother of Nolan. Yes, it's really good to see everyone here, and I'm just looking forward to a good conversation. I'm currently in Vancouver, Washington for the time being, but we'll be heading north sometime shortly. All right, thank you.
Awesome, Evan. Oh my goodness. And Miles. Okay. Oh no, Miles was just supporting. Okay, great. And Benjamin and Suzanne, take it away.
Hey everybody, I'm Benjamin. This is Suzanne.
Hi.
We are not brothers of Nolan. We're not related to Nolan in any way.
Well, we are too.
But we are.
In the bigger sense,
Yeah. We are not too far from Vancouver, Washington. We're in Camas, Washington, and we're excited to be a part of this meeting and the Vegan Collective Intelligence meeting after this. And it's it's already happening. So we're excited to be a part of it.
Wonderful. Welcome, Benjamin and Suzanne. Welcome, everyone. All righty. And, if you haven't given an introduction to yourself and you want to later, that's totally fine. Just jump in at any time. But I say we take the leap into topic land, and I'll reiterate and delve into what for me is frankly the only game in town, right? And just to be, very just straight to the point about it, we could spend the rest of our lives, in what I'll just call the normal conversation, where we complain about stuff and, oh, Donald Trump, when's he going to get impeached? And, well, I'm doing my part and and I'm just blown away that corporation is doing that. I'm like, I can't believe it. If we continue with that normal conversation, we can do that for the rest of our lives, but I think the rest of our lives would be very, very short, because the planet is overheating exponentially, and we need to do something radically and dramatically and drastically different to, bam, stop this exponential overheating and literally send it in the opposite direction. It's going to take a mean hockey stick smack of the puck to get it to reverse directions, going from 120 miles an hour in one direction to 170 in the opposite, right? And I believe the only way to give the planet that smack, to give the hockey puck of overheating that smack, is solar radiation management within the very short time frame that's needed. And to the vegan side of the house, which I hope will be all the house as soon as possible, even if everyone went vegan tomorrow and returned all that land that's used for animal agriculture, from the soybean fields to the stockyards, returned all that land back to nature, okay, it would take a while, years to decades, for it to start to really sequester such an amount of carbon. And the methane's another story, right? But just to sequester carbon to really move the dial, right? And so we don't have that kind of time. We don't have, years to decades. We've got months to a couple of years at best to get this done, right? Otherwise, we're skating. The ice that we're skating on is just too thin. So that's the impetus for it all. And wrote, didn't David Attenborough say we cannot be radical enough? I couldn't agree more. In fact, radish.org is based on radical collective intelligence. Radical meaning getting to the root. So the only game in town, my brothers and sisters, at this point, and Suzanne's up in the queue. Thank you, Suzanne. The only game in town at this point is that we cool the planet in time to then do everything else we need to do. And yes, we continue doing everything else in parallel, but we've got to focus on cooling the planet in time as quickly as possible, ideally in the next year. Let's get this done. We cannot afford to wait around and dilly-dally around and have conversations that are peripheral to that. We got to go straight to the heart of the matter. I'll talk about a strategy to do that, but first I want to pass the mic to Suzanne. Thank you. Take it away, Suzanne.
Cool. Hey, I totally agree with the SRM strategy and think we should move forward with that and maybe start separate conversations on that specifically. And I'm wondering, I wasn't at the conference, so I'm not as well versed in Dr. Rao's white paper, but I was under the impression that he thought returning grazing lands to forests would work in time. So I was wondering if you guys have talked about that specifically, and if not, can we all get together and talk about that? Yes, let's move forward with SRM too.
Yeah, and to be very, very clear, I think that veganism is the best way to get humanity together and get humanity to go compassionate, right? And that a compassionate world can then do SRM. We're not going to do SRM in the world we inhabit right now. It's just not going to happen. We've got to transform the world to a compassionate world, and veganism is the only way to do that. It's like you can't oh, well, I meditate 4 hours a day, so therefore I can eat meat. No. It doesn't. Veganism is an absolute, and I think it's the absolute that's going to get us to the compassionate world that can then take responsibility for itself and cool the planet through solar radiation management as just that's the hockey stick smacking the puck, right?
Yep. Well, yes. But have you talked to Sailesh about like the carbon sequestration part of it and how, like, the timeline of that for the forestry and that part of it?
Well, we've talked extensively about the carbon sequestration, and we've also talked about the overall holistic strategy of veganism and solar radiation management. And by the way, Sailesh is fully supportive of solar radiation management, right? So we're very much on the same page. And I would say it's kind of like a fire department putting out a fire in Chicago in like a 4-story Victorian beautiful wooden house. You've got, just for simplicity, let's say you've got the fire department splits itself into 2 teams, one that's dedicated to hosing down the flames and putting out the fire, another dedicated to busting through and getting to the kids in the attic and getting them out alive, right? It's not that one is more important than the other. It's chop, we got to do both right now. It's not one or the other, it's both. And chop, just do it, right? So I really don't see any benefit. In fact, I see actually a fair amount of harm to those 2 missions, veganism and SRM, debating, right? It should all be about. Go ahead, Suzanne, please. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to start a debate. It was more just a question about Sailesh's timeline. So someone posted a link to the white paper, and I think I just need to get into that more. So yeah.
Oh, okay, no, and just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that you were trying to debate it, Suzanne. You were asking a question. I sometimes kind of take things forward a few steps in my mind, and I say, well, wait a second, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? And the synthesis is really where it's at. It's both together. I think we got Dan in the queue, and do I have anyone else in the queue? I don't think so. So take it away, Dan.
Yeah, a few thoughts. So with solar radiation management, that gives me something of a problem because where solar radiation management, in the sense that we're going to find ways to deflect the solar radiation, back out into space as a protective measure so we have time. That's all rational, but there's other issues connected to it. So, and without a discussion of what actually is the state of the planet that people can understand, that can create problems in terms of decisions and actions. So here with solar radiation management, at one point in time, my thought was, the greenhouse gases, the industrial particulates that are constantly being spewed into the atmosphere are problematic. That's not a good thing to have all of these industrial particulates being spewed out. It's capitalism, industrial behavior without any regards to ecology, etc. But then, Guy McPherson and others bring up the issue of global dimming, where that claim is that if you were to suddenly reduce industrial activity significantly for the good of the planet, for the good of everyone, that would actually result in a rapid acceleration in the average global temperature, which would be disastrous from this point of view. So so without integrating the issue of global dimming into the picture, you know, a lot of the energy that people are engaged in, we need to stop spewing stuff into the atmosphere. But maybe it's necessary, I'm not saying it is, but maybe it's necessary to have those particulates up there in terms of buying time. Now, solar radiation management is essentially, even though I understand there's different maybe methods of doing it, but a lot of it, and here's the final thing I just want to throw out about solar radiation management. There are claims, which may or may not be valid, that actually this has been going on for a good period of time. That actually it has been done for, let's say, decades by the military. So, you know, so if that were the case, and maybe they were doing it because the thought was that, you know, the energy company scientists apparently knew that we were going to have runaway global warming or, you know, global heating way back in the 60s or the 70s. And so therefore, you know, solar radiation management might be a way to forestall it with the hope that eventually technology will prevail in some way. So to me, we really need to be able to integrate. So if we're talking solar radiation, and by the way, Jamin, you know, Bill Gates, I'll be done in just a minute, folks. Bill Gates is now saying, oh, we need solar radiation management. Some scientist at Harvard University is saying we need solar radiation management. But I think that it would be useful to know whether or not solar radiation management has been going on for quite some time, and what we can look forward to with a continuation of it. Because there's lots of, let's say, side effects, negative things that may come from it. And so this is the last thing I'm going to say. I believe that all of these things need to be discussed and integrated in some sort of a way. Because, and that's, you know, when I was talking last week, you know, things need to be taken to a meta level in terms, to me, for radical collective intelligence. If you can't take things up to a meta level, all energies seem to get dissipated. All right, thank you.
All right, awesome, Dan. So first of all, I totally agree with you. We're totally on the same page about integrating everything together holistically. Right. Solar radiation management, veganism, a radical transformation of our economy to a compassionate, regenerative economy. The spiritual transformation of humanity, right? Encompassing cultural and story and all that, you know, the big one, you know, all this needs to be integrated into one holistic strategy. It's not like there's just one solution. And bless you. And oh crap. Thanks, Dharmendra. He just wanted to sneeze. That's his contribution to the conversation. Anyway, so you know, I'm not seeing SRM as the silver bullet. SRM is the fire department, right? Or half of the fire department, per my earlier analogy. And we just got to do it. And as far as, you know, rumors about the military doing this for years or decades, that's like the fire department getting a call. Hey, the big, you know, that big Victorian house is on fire and there's kids in the attic. And everyone's getting ready to get in the fire truck. And somebody says, whoa, hold on a second. I heard that maybe the neighbors were dumping buckets of water on the house and maybe they'll put out the fire and maybe the kids won't die. Oh, okay, well then let's not go then, right? I'm making a straw man out of it. Okay, Dan, you go ahead.
Let me just clarify what I mean. So just quickly. So solar radiation management, if it's been performed essentially by people with extensive knowledge, scientific knowledge in the military or in academia. But now, if that's been done for a long period of time, and here is where we're at, then we would have to say, well, is there anything that could be done to improve solar radiation management? It's not like it's some new thing. And that's something which is important to know, because if you don't have that knowledge, let's say you assume that nothing has been done, and now Bill Gates is on the job or something, and suddenly we're going to have solar radiation management. That doesn't make good sense if it hasn't been done. So if the military's been doing something, the scientists in the military and academia who basically can't talk about necessarily what they're doing. If they've been doing something, we need to be able to understand that. And secrecy, which prevents us from knowing knowledge, which is necessary, that's a huge problem. It's a constraint on going forward in any kind of a way. And I think those constraints need to be elevated to a meta level so that we can look at them. And you can say the same thing about veganism. I won't go there. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify what I meant.
No, that's clear. That's clear. And we definitely need to understand what the military is doing. Bill Gates is working with one scientist at Harvard. And I'm just going to pull up the name really quickly here. Let's see. Anyway,
can I jump in for a sec?
Oh, please.
I think this all points to our global situation essentially demanding some amount of cooperation and open information, right? To a degree that has never really been done before. And that's what I'm hearing from Dan. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm pushing with my words for this open collaborative data set, this model of the world that already exists in a bunch of different pieces. Like Dan's saying, maybe the military already has some models that they've been using, simulating their version of SRM if they've been messing with that. And so we basically need all that to come out into the open so we can plug each of these pieces into each other. And I think that once we do that, it's going to be extremely obvious what the right path is.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Nolan. So I just wanted to clarify, there's actually 2 teams at Harvard working on solar radiation management. And to my knowledge, they're not interacting very much, which is, of course, not atypical of academia. But the Harvard team that Bill Gates is funding is led by Frank Kuch and David Keith. The Harvard team that I and other colleagues from radish.org are collaborating with is led by Dr. Ye Tao. And there are 2 different approaches. The Bill Gates team is looking at spraying stuff into the atmosphere, right? Which I am totally opposed to. And so is Dr. Tao. Dr. Tao and I and colleagues are working on giant land-based and ocean-based mirrors to reflect sunlight back into space. And here's the thing, with solar radiation management, the scale at which we need to do this is millions of square miles. So even if folks have been experimenting, lab scale, right, or chemtrail scale or whatever, they're not doing it at the scale we need, and they're not doing it anywhere near the scale we need. And until you get to planetary scale, it's like taking 1/100th of the dose of antibiotics that your body needs to knock out the bug, right? It's not a meaningful experiment, right? So anyway, that's what I want to say about that. Up next in the queue is Miles, and I think it's just Miles in the queue at this point. Evan had put in a symbol, but I didn't know if you were trying to get into the queue or just okay, that's cool. All right, take it away, Miles. And you're on mute, Miles, and that's okay. Maybe Miles is on a break or something. So no one's in the queue.
Sorry, guys.
No, go ahead, Miles.
I was having fat finger problems on my screen. So what I just would like to think out loud about is what we have here is social. This is good. You know, we get together as basically friends. We share ideas, encourage each other. And it's important. But there was the question about the concern Suzanne raised. Well, she said, oh, I'm not trying to debate you. But in fact, at some point, we do have to move into structured debate. And so at some point, there has to be incorporation into organizations that are chartered in a jurisdiction to conduct business. So right now there are two teams, the Bill Gates funded team and the Ye Tao team. And not sure what they have insofar as a charter or how formally constructed they are yet, but they are two organizations that can actually go into debate and deliberation and then appropriate funds from somewhere, go out fundraising, and then actually take action, right? So all we're ever going to do on this social platform is be social with each other. But it is important, you know, if we could get thousands of people talking socially about solar radiation management, then we feed that, or the Radish organization feeds that to Bill Gates and Ye Tao and to the government and says, there's thousands of people working in a social level trying to move this forward, and you should be aware that the power of the people want to see these things, something being done. Now, so just you can comment on that. Next point I want to make is when it comes to debate and the importance of actually moving from social into debate is thinking about what Dan said, you know, and the effects of aerosols presently in the air. So my thought is if these aerosols from the burning of coal-fired plants with no scrubbers are actually protecting us, as Dr. Rao points out, because they reflect back some of the solar energy, then if we had mirrors on the ground, would that not also get reflected back by those same aerosols? So anyway, there's an issue, or just a possibility of a complication that needs to be attended to. And that has to go to the scientists, and they have to debate it, and they have to measure it to answer that. The one thing, and the third point for comment by anybody, is that when I think about it, going to a vegan for life diet is the only thing that's actually doing anything at the moment. Like, I've gone striving to be vegan and cutting out dairy and all that, and you know, occasionally, just because some foods already got it into it, I don't order meat. I stay away from meat. And but anyway, just make the point for people to comment is right now going vegan's the only concrete action that I can even think of. So thanks.
All right, well, I got some immediate comments to that, and then Debra wrote some cool stuff that I want to read out loud or invite Debra to. But quick comments since we're on SRM. You know, regarding the aerosol masking effect, let's say that's, I don't know, affecting, say, 1% of sunlight, right? So 99% gets through, 1% gets reflected out. I'm just saying rough, you know, order of magnitude, right? I don't think it's 10%, and I don't think it's 1/10 of a percent. It's order of magnitude 1%. And so what we reflect of that sunlight, of the 99% that passes through, and we reflect it with mirrors back out into space, similarly, the aerosols might take out 1% of that, right? But if 99 gets through, hey man, you know, I'll take it, right? So yes, it has an effect, but it's very small. But your previous point that you were making about a collective intelligence with thousands of people, see, that's what we're building towards now. It was weeks, you know, a few months ago on the social club, there'd be times when there'd only be 4 or 5 of us, right? Right now there's 17 of us, right? On a Tuesday, middle of the day. It's not like you people don't have anything to do, right? You've got
yeah. I'll just say that when I say vegan's the only thing that's actually doing anything at the moment, that is other than the social club, because I wouldn't even be thinking vegan until I met Dr. Rao here. So yeah, this social club is creating change. So yes, kudos to you and Radish people.
Well, you know, kudos to all of us. Kudos to each and every one of us on this conversation right now. You are a pioneer, right? And we're crossing the Donner Pass from collective stupidity to collective intelligence. And yeah, it gets a little icy sometimes and whatever, but we're doing great, everybody. So, you know, just keep bringing a friend, and we keep making it happen, because I guarantee you, by the time we have thousands of people working on SRM in this collective intelligence way, and since the growth of our membership is exponential, right? You know, the real trick was getting it to go from like 5 people to like 12 people. And now it's just, you know, we've got a whole other big vegan collective intelligence meeting this afternoon that's very popular and growing exponentially, I would say. So once we have thousands of people, and that's not going to take very long, this thing is blowing up, right? We will have encircled, in an academic sense, scooped in an academic sense, whatever Bill Gates' Harvard team is doing, if they're using traditional academia level intelligence, which is extremely siloed and in fact stifling, right? So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about that. And so I really think, you know, and look, the collective intelligence seeks unity. It seeks us to come together and say, what's your thesis? What's the antithesis? Let's have a synthesis, because in the end, we need one grand synthesis of all of the best that we can possibly muster to address and mitigate and ultimately transform and eliminate all of the evil, all the destruction. It's as simple as that. This is a Titanic, you know, Lord of the Rings style, epic, you know, either the orcs overrun us and chop off all our heads, or we, you know, hold them off and, you know, put them in their place, wherever that may be, right? Collective intelligence is the obvious way of ourselves organizing, self-organizing in an intelligent, very hyper-productive way that's already producing results, like Miles indicated. And it's just been growing by leaps and bounds. Yesterday, we had an amazing meeting that went for several hours. Benjamin, Evan, Nolan, Dharmendra, Michael, Gaio, me. Anyway, an amazing meeting. Just tore it up, right? And we're mapping out exactly what needs to happen next. And so this whole thing is just growing super rapidly. This is the only game in town, right? Bringing together veganism and solar radiation management and collective intelligence and arcology and radical economic transformation, radical cultural transformation, radical spiritual transformation, radical political transformation, radical, you know, diet transformation, radical transformation, not just in what we eat, but how we eat. We need community cafes where nutritious vegan food becomes a basic human right, right? Not just something for rich people, right? So we need all these transformations, and we need a strategy to make it happen, which is a good pivot point, and taking advantage of the fact that, okay, Dan's in the queue. I was about to say, taking advantage of the fact that nobody's in the queue. And Melissa also wants to comment. Okay, so Melissa and then Dan in a moment. But just to round out what I wanted to say is that given that we need a strategy, and given that we need to really wake people up in a way that makes it easy for them to say yes to this, to the big holistic this, right? I think it's a lot easier for a flag waving, Republican on the West Coast with a big house on the coast, a sociopath. It's a lot easier for them to say yes to SRM than for us to shame them into going vegan, right? Now, we can inspire them into going vegan. And here's where the two really work together. It's almost like this magical, marriage between veganism and SRM, okay? It's, take the vegans and the compassion and the love of the vegan community to make SRM succeed. And part of making SRM succeed means putting it out there for people and saying, hey, this is what we need to focus on right now. And yes, by the way, Greta Thunberg style, I am vegan, and that's up and coming, and we'll talk more about that later. So that it's like we crank up the heat a bit, and then we cool it off, right? But SRM can lead the charge in terms of the public message. Anyway, I'm going to let Melissa, please take it away, followed by Dan. Take it away, sweetheart.
I have a question. You were mentioning Bill Gates working with some Harvard scientists who are a different group of scientists than the ones you've been in contact with. And I'm just wondering if, and I'm not sure I heard this correctly, but there was talk about academia being very slow, which is true. But I'm just wondering if this collective doesn't extend to maybe contacting someone like Bill Gates, who's working with his group of scientists, and bringing you, Jamin, together with Yetao and others, all together to talk about this, because it really doesn't matter who does it first. We just got to do it. And so I just wanted to have some comments back about that.
Okay, let me comment on that quickly. So first of all, I am all for it. When I was corporate strategy manager at Microsoft, and after I retired, I had conversations with Bill Gates about ending world hunger. And I said, Bill, I'd love to put us together with Warren Buffett, who had just acquired, a majority stake or some major stake in Burlington Northern, and was getting the railroads all optimized, with a nod to Chicago, the great rail hub of the of the world, perhaps. And Bill Gates simply wasn't interested, right? And I think one of the reasons he wasn't interested was because when we get down to it, one way or another, at some point, we're going to need some money, right? And as soon as I say that, all eyes, gravitate towards Bill Gates and Warren Buffett in the room, right? Nobody's going to look at me and say, hey, Jamin, cough up $10 billion, right? Because I ain't got that kind of jack, but Bill Gates does. And I think he avoids the issue to avoid having to write a check. And then he focuses on things that take a much more limited budget, like research into malaria. Wow, thanks, Bill. The house is on fire, but, you just made a call to a clinic to schedule, vaccinations for the kids in the attic. Bill, we need to get them out of the attic first. Anyway, sorry, I could go on and on. Bill's a public figure. Go ahead.
Sorry. So you don't think that as the planet gets hotter and things get more dire, and he does have children and he's got a wife, that we're all healing on this planet and we're all changing up our shit and going vegan and doing stuff that we maybe didn't even think was possible in the past. I, for one, am also, embracing new ways myself, even though I consider myself a pretty sensitive human being. So you don't think like it's worth knocking on the door again and again and again because yes, he does have the budget for this sort of thing, the finances, and he does have the persuasion and the influence. So I'm just wondering about that, because change can happen to all of us, and I'm just wondering, rather than sticking with an old bill, maybe there's a new bill. I could, I don't know, just a thought.
No, it's a great thought, sweetheart. And actually, I totally agree with you. I think I need to let go of my past, disagreements with Bill, and put that beside us. I think you're absolutely right. And so I'm working with Yatao and other scientists. Yatao and I work together to put together a working group. And there's the recording of the first meeting of that is up on my YouTube channel. Well worth watching, by the way. And so I think at some point, and we can definitely encourage the two groups to come together. I've got bigger fish to fry with Yatao right now, like a press conference in Pacifica, announcing this to the world, right? And not putting any kind of, I'll just call them artificial prerequisites in front of that, to say, oh, well, we can't do that until, we found out what the military is doing, had a conversation with Bill Gates, done all the, no. I want no artificial prerequisites. That's why my main focus with Yatao right now is on the main course, a vegan main course served up in Pacifica, a press conference to the world saying, hello, world, we're falling into the water here, right? We're losing our coastline, and we're not alone. Look at the LA Times article from July of this year, the vanishing California coastline. The whole coastline, all the Malibu mansions, bye-bye, right? So, and these are all a bunch of rich people who care, right? And so basically we're going to say, look, basically rich coastal people of the world unite, and let's get SRM done, right? Bill Gates, you've got coastal property, join us, right? And but I think the world needs to be essentially smacked awake like a fire alarm at 3 o'clock in the morning that gets you out of your hotel room, right? And they don't make those soft, those fire alarms, they're not optional. I mean, they blast you out of there. Your ears are hurting, right? So we need a call that is a blasted into their minds call. And we can talk about the marketing of that later. I don't want to go off on a tangent like that. But the bottom line is, it's time to wake the world up and say, the coasts of the world are disappearing, the ice is disappearing, water is disappearing, food is disappearing, and we're going to disappear. We're at the top of the food chain if we let this exponential overheating continue unabated. So out with artificial prerequisites. Yes, let's make a long checklist of things to do, and let's do them all, right? But let's get the big rocks in the jar before we put the smaller rocks in the jar, before we fill it with sand. If we put a bunch of sand in the jar first, we won't even be able to get the big rocks in later. So the first big rock that I'm proposing, and this really gets to the crux of this whole holistic strategy, is do that which is entirely within our power, that doesn't depend on us spending weeks or months going hand in hand to other folks. Go straight to what's within our power, and that is to organize a press conference in Pacifica, symbiotic with the project that Melissa and I are doing in Pacifica. We're contracted by the city, county, Sanchez Art Center to do community art projects, which I'll let Melissa give a beautiful recap of, as she's the pilot on that project. I'm the co-pilot. But part of my co-piloting is I'll put on a fireman's uniform and be there at the main intersection of the whole city of Pacifica, where everybody drives through sooner or later, with a big sign on the front. It'll say, Pacifica, stand your ground. Because there's been this whole debate. Do we retreat? Do we do managed retreat? Or do we stand our ground? Pacifica, stand your ground. And this is what standing your ground looks like. Forcibly cooling the planet with SRM, period. Now, that's at the planetary level. At the individual level, there's a bunch of things we could do. The most impactful would be that we all go vegan. I'm vegan. This is what I'll say then. All right, I'm almost there. I'm vegan, and we all need to go vegan for these reasons. We also need to end single-use plastic. We also need to transform the economy. We also need to get on bicycles and, put away our cars. It's, you know, there's all these things we need to do. Wear hemp instead of cotton, et cetera, et cetera. But first things first, call the fire department, and we got to put out the fires of the planet. And that's SRM is the way to do that immediately right now. Those are the big guns, the big hoses of the fire department, and we need those now, okay? Now, on the back of the sign, so in front of the sign says Pacifica Stand Your Ground. On the back of the sign, it'll say, climate change is real, so is the solution. Which side are you on? Question mark. Oh, yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. Which side are you on? Right. This makes it black and white. And people, you know, not all primates are as evolved as us on the social club, respecting Robert's rules of order and having such enlightened, educated conversations, right? Elevated conversations. Some of these primates, in Mexico, we have a saying, al burro hay que gritarle. I'm Hispanic, so I can speak in my Hispanic accent. To the donkey, you gotta yell at him. You know, you don't whisper in his ear, hey, donkey, come on, please pull the cart of bricks. You gotta say, yo, go, right? To the pendejo primates, we need to gritar. Wake up. We're about to all fall into the ocean and die of thirst and die of hunger and die of all these exotic insect diseases as everything becomes a tropical swamp dump full of cholera. Wake up. We got to cool the planet now. Okay, I've been talking a lot, and I think Dan's been very patient. And Dan, if you let me read through some of the stuff that the people who can't speak have typed in, thank you for that. Debra is going to comment about what you wrote about. Oh, Debra, I'm so sorry. I mentioned what you were saying. So Debra, after I read through the other comments. So Jamin reading through comments, then Debra, then Dan. Is that cool with everybody? All right, thanks. Okay, because Debra hasn't spoken yet. Hey, Jamin, I did watch the rest of yesterday's meeting via the link you sent to my email earlier today. Very informative for me. Really enjoyed it.
That was private.
Oh, dude, I'm
to
sorry.
you.
Dude, I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter if you read it, but it was sent to you privately. That's all.
Now I got it. Now I got it. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Anyway, really enjoyed being made aware of the inner workings going on behind the scenes. I would like to continue with that if possible. And this is a conversation actually for all of us, but that'll come later about collective intelligence. Amira wrote that Bill Gates invested in Beyond Meat. He needs to get on board. He's a carnivore, still is, and but I think he invested for the financial gain. Not because he loves veganism. Okay, Anne wrote, just a note, the Sacred Activism book talks about the marriage of religion, spirituality with science in order to prohibit our extinction, meaning human and non-human animals. Beautiful. Anne also likes what I wrote. Climate change is real, so is the solution. Which side are you on? Love it. Thank you, Anne. That's super cool. All right. And then Adam wrote about sent a link about the aerosol masking effect and says that Viva Kundilif appears to have the solution. And there's a link there, so we got to check that out. All right. Debra, you've been very patient, and so have you, Dan. Debra, go ahead, followed by Dan. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so in listening to your conversation about SRM, there's some parallels with the veganism movement also, in that, you know, veganism is actually, I don't think we have to shame people into it. I think we can inspire people into it. There's a lot of inspirational information out there, and with all the documentaries and everything that are being produced that are available now, there's a very positive message. And it's actually, I believe, the fastest growing social justice movement right now, from what I've heard through climate healers. So it's growing exponentially. And as more and more people are becoming vegan, there is more of more people jumping on board to provide alternatives. But there is still the government issue that I think we need to do something about. And I think raising awareness, Dan mentioned the secrecy, exposing the secrecy and raising awareness and getting people to demand it is one way to do that. The government is still subsidizing animal agriculture in a big way. There's still the animal agriculture gag laws that prevent politicians, I believe, from talking about the problems with the animal agriculture and climate change. And so it's and then there's still the government actually buying up and storing what's not being sold. So I guess my question is in yes, we can all go vegan, we can all do this today, and how do we get the government to stop subsidizing animal agriculture and buying up the surplus and storing the surplus, and then disposing of it so that these guys stay in business? When can we shift the subsidies and the supplementing those businesses and put that efforts and money into transitioning away from animal agriculture? Because until we do that, then just stop eating meat for you and me isn't going to make the connection to the bigger industry. We have to have the government stop subsidizing and perhaps start subsidizing the industry, the businesses, to transition away from animal agriculture and support the businesses that are supplying alternatives. So that's the main thing I wanted to say about that. I don't know. I think the white paper and all the documentaries and the exposure that Dr. Rao is getting right now is making a huge headway in that, and us continuing to help that movement to grow exponentially and raise that awareness is going to hopefully bring some of those things out of secrecy so that we can expose them and have something done about them.
Beautiful, Debra. My goodness. Listening to the clarity of your logic is like eating my favorite vegan chocolate. Free trade, slave free. You get the point. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Dan has been very patient. Thank you for your patience, Dan, and take it away.
Yeah, so let me try to take an example from the mental health world. So, when these days and during the last years that I was working with public health, I became acutely aware, even though I'd been aware of it for a long time on a kind of dissociated level, that what we were doing was very corrupted. But here's the thing. So in mental health, professional mental health, you have two areas which are essentially given to people. One is medication. You have some sort of they used to even say, chemical imbalance or problem with your neurotransmitter transmission. And we have medications to correct that, and therefore you will be restored to stable mental health. The other offering was therapy of various sorts, many different schools, etc. And usually, somebody might be told, you need medication and therapy. But one of the big problems with that is there are two problems. One is that before you even think about therapy and medication for anything, you need to have adequate nutrition. In other words, you can't have vitamin and mineral deficiencies, or you're going to have problems with how your brain operates, and you will ultimately have diagnosable mental health symptoms. So when I was still working for public health, I was trying to say, why don't we let anybody who comes into the system get the blood work to determine if you have vitamin and mineral deficiencies, also hormonal imbalances and some other things. Let's give the person the blood work before we get them fundamentally addicted to medication they may never have needed, or we let them go into therapy and let them become frustrated and disappointed frequently because they still have the problems they had in the first place. So, but that's one thing, you have to identify, so now here's the other part of what I'm trying to say. It's the professionalism. So we have, in the mental health world, we have psychiatrists who make their living giving out medications. That's what they do. We have therapists, whether they're social workers, psychologists, whatever, they do therapy. They do the clinical therapy work. They have a professional interest in being able to do it. Now, what happens to the average person is you come out of graduate school and you're all idealistic. Most people are. And you can say the same thing for doctors. You want to do good. You want to help. They're generally kind of altruistic type people. But the problem is once you get into the professional world, you're going to learn the limits of your altruism and your good intentions, because everybody's got to take a paycheck if they want to live a certain way. And so the problem is that things become very, very corrupted. And when we're looking at climate change, people who are concerned with that, we see that there's lots of professional interests. We have people say Michael Mann, who's a well-known scientist who talks about climate change, the hockey stick. We have other scientists like, Peter Wadhams. There's a lot of voices. Now, if you are still a professional and you're in the system, whether you're at Harvard University, Berkeley, whether you got a PhD, you're in the military, or you're in some intelligence operation, agency, you have professional interests. And so what I'm saying with radical collective intelligence is this: that becomes a constraint. It's a constraint on progress and being able to cooperate and solve things. And we need to be able to have that front and center in our minds. And part of the essential work, I believe, is we have to remove that kind of a constraint by having people be honest about it and be able to, and a lot of times it has to be retired people. People retire from the intelligence agencies and then they do speak out to a certain degree. People can retire from the military. People like you retire from your work and you have, it's much easier for you then to speak out rather than when you are having to depend on your job, what you say or don't say. So I just wanted to give that out as an example. I think anybody out there who's a professional, and if you've been in a system, you probably have some sense of what reality on the ground is. It's different than graduate school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. By the way,
I'd like to add to that, Jamin.
Please.
So what Dan was just saying, I think the reality is actually worse than that. I think everything he said is absolutely accurate and true. I also believe that when we graduate and we start working and we're idealistic, and then we can't do those things, we then begin to change our core belief system. And the reason that we do that is because we are a really good person who got into this work to do the right thing. And then we find ourselves not doing the right things anymore because of the bureaucracy, because of the policy, because of the amount of money that we have available to do the things with, because of what our older colleagues are doing, whatever it is. So we have to change our belief and say, this is what I am now doing is the right way to do it. And I was actually wrong before because I'm doing it. And I'm a good person. And I got into this work. And I don't care if the work that you got into is mental health or working with people with disability or medicine or teaching, or the whole list can go, marketing even, right? I think that, and that core belief system change is what is so detrimental, because we have to, what we do with our hands, what we do with our lives has to match our values, or our values have to match what we do, or we're in this horrible sense of dissonance. And we've changed our beliefs from something that was good to something that is really negative, and it's really hard to overcome. And I don't think I'm being nearly as clear as Deb was, because I'm kind of passionate about this whole idea. Anyway, you guys get me.
You're being very clear, Ann, and I just want to encourage you to continue and share more. And here's the thing about collective intelligence. Let's say that in whatever I'm saying right now, or whatever you just said, let's say there was a couple of holes that were left and it wasn't all perfectly tied together. The next person can fill in those holes, right?
I'd like to fill in some holes.
Go for it.
Or at least share some of my experience. And I really, really appreciate you and your input, and would like to take a second and appreciate. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to interrupt for a quick second. Dharmendra is both in the queue, and this may be a unique opportunity for him to speak because he's often busy.
Oh, I see.
But
Yeah.
Dharmendra, go ahead, followed by Nolan, please.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to follow up a little bit on the old way of doing things, and how much inertia and just plain muck and gook on every mental, physical, emotional level there is, and trying to work through the old labyrinth and kind of primitive, outdated, killer monkey sort of human being way of being a human being. What we're creating here is a radical collective intelligence, and everybody has access to the best of everybody else and what they can give. At least that's my assumption. That's what I want to do. I want to give the best that I have and be open to the best from everybody else. So we're constantly self-correcting as a collective. And so much of that will support us moving forward in ways that were pretty much useless, or have become pretty much useless now as compared to maybe they worked in the past, but they worked in the past to create a very sick structure and a very sick system of everything from government to medical to you name it. And so, I mean, and I know that a lot has to do with beliefs and stuff and those kind of things, but I think what's even more imperative and profound is that people start taking a look directly into their hearts and start asking, and start not so much asking real questions, those will come up, but just looking in to see who we are. Because if we don't know who we are, then yeah, we're going to come from beliefs, and beliefs always come from somebody else. I believe this, I believe that. But coming from your own direct experience is something that happens when you meditate, when you sit silently with yourself and you just stop the world. And I'm going to constantly be emphasizing radical collective intelligence anytime I get a chance, because without there being a connection to essence, and I've gone into this a little bit, but I haven't actually been able to do it verbally in this particular audience, always in the later ones after work where I can talk with Jamin and a few other people. But it's so important, if we're not connected with our essence, if we don't even know what I'm talking about, essence, it's not a belief. Essence is your reality. It's what you really are, stripped of all the conditioning that's been shoved down our throat. Who I think I am, how I think, what I did for a living, who my sisters are, what my genetic inheritance is, what my past lives are, all that. And I just caught myself. I was about to cuss. I won't. I'll keep it clean. And I'll just say all that crap. That's all crap. I mean, and yes, when you know how to use it, then you can use it and you can maneuver in the world however you need to. But without getting in touch with essence, which is your spirit, basically, and coming from that place, in any project we do, including anything from saving the world to going vegan, from the most local thing to the most global thing, is just, it doesn't have a connection to reality. It's just based on, I'll just use the word beliefs, because beliefs is, the way I learned it, beliefs is a step below thinking. When you finally learn to think for yourself, you don't need to depend on beliefs, because you're using your own mind and not borrowing from somebody else's mind about how to approach reality and how to structure your thoughts and how to go about your day and how to relate to people and what kind of work to do and what kind of causes to support and all of those things. So basically, the accelerated collective evolution, I keep pushing, it's like, the thing is to open to a new possibility. We're creating a new possibility here. It's the only thing that's going to save this planet. There ain't no way we're going to solve this problem from the same level at which it was created. Ain't gonna happen. We could talk all day long about how it got created, and we can talk about all day long from that same level what kind of solutions we're gonna come up with, and we're gonna expose the system for what it is and all that. None of those are solutions. That's just like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's the 1 step back. We keep going 1 step back. Oh, we're going 2 steps forward, but we got to keep going 1 step back. Can't forget where we came from. The thing is, we don't have, I mean, we really don't have time in the bigger picture anymore to not get a couple of basic points. Stop creating suffering in the world by eating beings that didn't want you to eat them. I mean, it's so simple. How can you not see that? Would you want your own kids cut up in front of you and eaten? Come on. I mean, wake up, really. That's what animals feel just like we do. They may not be able to think like we do, but if you really start putting it into personal terms and see, how can I keep eating meat if if I'm not willing to let my kids go off to slaughter, I mean my human kids go off to slaughter, then what the hell am I doing eating cows and other things? I mean, I hate to get so graphic, but not really. That's sometimes the kind of it, and that's one thing, veganism. Another thing is your consciousness, radical collective intelligence. If you're going to start tuning into stuff, you got to start learning sooner or later how to be silent with yourself and settling into your essence and start coming with your own 2 cents instead of somebody else's or your past or what you did for a living or what all these different things or what your grandpa taught you or what your genetics make you want to do. None of that's original. We need original. Original is the only thing that's going to solve these problems right now. Only way. I know without a doubt, because I've seen that it's, if we could have solved it from the same level it was created at, we would have. And obviously the governments aren't going to support us. They're all invested in just really dark stuff in order to make the rich really richer. They're really stupid people, the stupidest people of all. They're only intelligent in making money and manipulating people. They're not intelligent in any other way. As far as humans go, they're an absolute failure. They're complete idiots. They have no heart and they have no soul. They're abusing their money from anybody from Trump to Bezos. And I don't mind naming names. I'm not afraid of any of these people. I don't care. I mean, they're not going to, what are they going to do? They're already bringing so much harm to the world by their actions, you know? Anyway, I just wanted to blast in a little essence there, Jamin, and everybody else, because that's the key point. That's what got something happened a couple of weeks ago. We had a beautiful meeting and essence was brought up, and it seems since then things have really, and I don't know what it was like before then, but it certainly wasn't what it's like now. Something clicked. And I know a lot of it has to do with getting in touch with spirit, which is another name for essence. Essence is just those places in you that are pure and real, that aren't conditioned, that are always new, always fresh, every single time to solve some of the problems that we're facing. Man, if we don't have that kind of access, we ain't got a prayer in the world, because nothing from our past is going to figure that out. All right, that was enough for now for me.
I so love everything you're talking about, Dharmendra. It's so fantastic. I see thumbs up and love all around. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're able to chime in. Nolan,
Yep.
Thank you so much for your patience. I'm just going to pass it Harlem Globetrotter style to our star center, Nolan.
Thanks, Jamin, and thank you, Dharmendra. Lots we could continue talking about there, because you were and continue to provide and dig down to the roots of all of this. That's a little hard to follow up after that, actually. I'd just like to say real quick before I jump in the car here and start driving that I think there exists a significant opportunity for us, especially in the youth of today, because they are, I think the young spirit is inherently unconditioned. And I know from my own experience at the University of Washington, in the computer science department there, I've felt this overwhelming sense of, well, we're deep into figuring out how computers work and finishing our assignments and doing everything our professors are telling us to do. Busy, 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 busy. And like Dharmendra's saying, it's like we never take the time to stop the world and really think for ourselves where this is all going. Why are we doing this work here at the university? How important is it that this assignment is the way it is? You know, should we be talking, speaking up? And what I'm really trying to get at here is I felt in the other students around me, and very concentrated in myself, this feeling of lack of purpose and general confusion once you start to zoom out away from that the specific scenario of, well, I'm going to school and I'm taking this class, I have to finish this assignment. Once I'm done with this quarter, I'm taking these other classes, and then eventually I'll get my degree, and then I'll get a job, and then I'll make money, and then I don't even know. What is this for? I don't know. I'm just kind of following the regiment. And it really pains me to say this, but I think that the older populations may be so conditioned that they really need these young, unconditioned voices that are willing to break away from the norms to really speak up and bring light to all this, and motivate everyone who's really stuck in their ways to find a way of breaking out of it, and breaking out of it together. So that was not very well formed. I guess the essence of what I was trying to say is I think we have a very profound opportunity with young, unconditioned people, especially.
Brilliant. Oh my goodness. Just incredible. You know, the main point is this is happening. And I think no one else is in the queue right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, Dan, I think you're in the queue. Is that right, Dan?
I am in the queue, Jamie.
Okay, awesome. And then, so we got Dan. Okay, I just want to make a quick comment before Dan, if that's all right. I just want to share here this image. Can everyone see that? So this is kind of a picture to sort of integrate it all together. Collective intelligence or accelerated collective evolution, as Dharmendra, just quoting everything Dharmendra just said. Bam, imagine that's like kind of the foundation, because we need that in order to really help veganism go to collectively intelligent veganism. I mean, leveraging the platform, just boom, building right on top of that. Likewise with SRM. And then Pacifica is sort of like an umbrella. It gives us a place, a physical place to center around. And then kind of in the middle, you see all these other solutions, from community cafes that we started pioneering in 2015 to Triple C, to our ecologies, to holistic land management, to all other kinds of solutions. But thinking of it in terms of this framework, and the horizontal dimension is, as we go further to the left, it's individual actions we can take to make a difference, like going vegan, a very personal choice, right? And versus the other extreme is planetary actions we can take to make a difference, with SRM as just the gold standard times 100. And then, you know, but anyway, this gives it a framework. I hope that's helpful. And back to you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. So some thoughts. Dharmendra is, I think, highlighting the fact that you need to, in a sense, move beyond kind of being trapped in, let's say, a lot of maladaptive beliefs, etc., and try to understand, essentially who you are, what does it all mean. And that just brings to my mind certain issues. I was taught, I don't know when, maybe when I was an undergraduate, I don't even, but the idea, one of the ideas was that older people, and this is kind of going off what Nolan was talking about too. So older people presumably have learned a lot, not necessarily, we know not necessarily, and so on. And they are going to pass on. They are simply going to go. The younger people are coming up, and for example, even ecologically, if there's only so many resources available to provide physiological energy, it's probably not a bad thing that the older people eventually pass on. Let the younger people step up, be able to utilize, hopefully, the knowledge that has collectively been built up, and be able to adapt in a more effective way to a current environment. So here's one of the things, so the issue of beliefs. I've been taught, and I believe it is pretty valid, is that once you get imprinted with beliefs, it is very, very difficult to ever let them go. It's a hardwired mechanism. When we're children, we don't have any experience in the world, and we are hardwired to take in what the elders in the community tell us. Those become beliefs. If I get to, I remember, to just give an example, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and my family was living in kind of a rural area, and there were absolutely no African Americans. There were no Hispanics.
What part of the country, Dan?
Actually, in Illinois, Savannah, Illinois, and then Elgin, Illinois, and at that time, Elgin was more rural than what it's become. But so I remember my family was moving to Chicago, and I was 9 years old, maybe 10 at the moment. But we're moving to Chicago. And one of my best friends, I had two guys. We did everything together, sports, played every day. This friend, he comes up to me, and he had some older brothers, and he said to me, I'm really glad I'm not moving to Chicago. And I don't mean this, because there's too many, and he used the N-word for African Americans, and he used the S word for the Hispanics. And I didn't, and when he told me this, he had this look on his face, which was the expression we have when you're showing disgust and kind of contempt, a certain mixture. And I didn't even know what he was talking about, actually. But I got the message. It was put into me. And he came to that. He too had never been exposed to those particular groups, but it was passed on, no doubt, by his older brothers and by the elders in the community. And so things get passed on, beliefs, that, let's say, this group is inferior or this group is bad. Now that becomes a belief. And so how do you ever get rid of something which is a belief? You know, the only way you can really do it is to force yourself to look at the evidence which contravenes that belief, and then be willing to let your rationalizations, you know, and minimizations go. That's very, very hard work. You know, you guys may remember, I think it was back in the 1980s, when people, you know, were joining, let's say, religious sects of various types. And, you know, there would be this thing, well, we've got to get our teenager out of that group and have them deprogrammed, you know, from the beliefs that were put into them when they were in the group. It's very, very difficult to unload beliefs that have been imprinted. And that's just a hard wiring. It's a fact of life. So again, on a meta level, we need to fully recognize the power of beliefs and how damaging they can be. And there's lots of beliefs which are fundamentally tribalistic. And you know, these are constraints, and people should be taught. You know, I always tried to do it in mental health, but again, very, very difficult for people to be able to shed it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, Evan, I'd like to offer that Dharmendra go next while he still can, and then on to you, Evan. Dharmendra, please take it away.
Thanks, Jamin. Really well said, Dan. I agree with everything you say. It's in the face of all that I still will stand totally strong in what I'm saying, because there is some kind of energy moving on a collective level through humanity now that is a little more accelerated in terms of possibilities than it has been in our past. And I agree that up until now, changing beliefs is you might as well try to regrow an arm after you cut one off. It's kind of difficult. But there is some work that has been done by a very profound spiritual people that have actually developed methods for working with it through object relations. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the work of object relations in psychology, but basically the way we form mental impressions and other types of impressions is we create, oh God, I can't think of the word, but anyway, we create these impressions in ourselves that are held there, that are actually artificial. They're not part of the, how should I say it, our truth of who we are. And there is a way through a type of very specific and focused questioning where you can bring up the ideations, the ideologies that are holding those beliefs in place that keep this false mental self-image that's been impregnated in our consciousness through our conditioning into relief, so we can see it and we can begin to start to question its reality. And the truth of the matter is, by staying with it for a certain period of time through very specific kinds of questioning like that, and this work does exist. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not trying to sell it, but it's just from my own understanding what's behind those false pictures of who we are that have been given to us by others in the form that we impregnate into our own consciousness as beliefs, as this is the way it works, this is the fact, this is reality, this is just the way it's going to be. But behind that is essence. And that's how we create personality. That's how we structure our personality. It's basically a whole big edifice of beliefs of all different kinds of everything we think. But what's behind that? What is behind that? What is the thing that's being put on? That's essence. That doesn't require any of that. But and in object relations, there is credit given to the fact that we have to grow up in the world. So we have to develop a personality because we're just pure essence when we come in. So we need some tools to survive in the world. But if we stay stuck with that as an adult, then we remain basically sort of half developed. We can then reabsorb that personality back into essence and create a real individuality, to give a new term, a real individuality. That is not a structure of consciousness based on beliefs that come from self-images that were given to us in the form of all kinds of loaded, statements thrown at us as children that we couldn't defend against. So it hits us, and and impacts us and impresses us and leaves an imprint. We're talking about, and I know it's not an easy work, but with a collective and with people who have actually done so and worked on these things, there is a way that once several of us have actually learned that particular way of disimprinting ourselves from false beliefs and coming more from who we are, that we can really start to take off in terms of a collective intelligence that can actually stand up to what that name actually means, collective intelligence. It's not a bunch of belief structures fighting against each other and trying to validate each other and trying to come up with the most relevant based on the past and my experience and this and that. I agree with everything you say because it's all true. But I also offer a new possibility that has to do more with the future than what we already know about the mess we've already gotten into. We're also clear about how we got here. And you definitely extract out and differentiate all kinds of very accurate perceptions about it. But where I'm coming from is more about where we're going to go with it. And yes, there is going to come up beliefs as we go along. And can I do this? Is this real? This isn't how my dad did it. This isn't what I learned back in the hood, blah, 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 blah. But this is something different. I'd rather know about Jamin now. I'd rather know about you. I'd rather know about Evan. I'd rather know about Nolan and connect with you freshly. And let's come up with something brand new and take a jump. Yes, it's going to take a lot of courage too, because to leave the old belief structures requires balls, man. I mean, it's easy to hang out in the old safe way that you were brought up in, the way it's always been done, and the way the elders passed down, and da-da-da-da-da. Some of which is good. Some of which is good. Some of it just needs to be updated. I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm not saying throw the whole thing out. I'm just saying it's really something to take a critical look at it with discriminative awareness and go from there. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in. About the critical point, object relations is what covers up essence. If you want to get into psychology and all that stuff, I've done my homework. I'm not just starting out with this either. So I want to make useful contributions that are well thought out, that have been meditated upon, that have been applied in the world, so that I can talk to people like you, a professional, Dan, and hopefully we can create a dialogue where we can start to find a way to take the incredible amount of information and understanding and even things beyond belief, like just clear perceptions shared in the moment that can open up new understandings. You know, enough said for now.
So beautiful, Dharmendra. Oh my goodness. I'm so grateful you're here. This is collective intelligence, everyone. The beautiful stuff Anne shared, the beautiful stuff Debra shared, the beautiful stuff Melissa is about to share. We got a few of us in the queue. Evan, followed by Melissa. And sweetheart, sorry for misinterpreting your previous text. By the way, if you want to get in the queue, please literally just type your name into the chat window and boom, you're in the queue. As simple as that. So Evan, followed by Melissa, followed by Debra, followed by Miles, followed by Jamin. All righty. Please take it away, Melissa, sweetheart.
Oh, I thought it was Evan first, Jamin. Do you want?
No, I'm always thinking of you, sweetie. So my mind and heart just default to you. You're absolutely right. I stand corrected. Evan, followed by my sweetheart. Thank you. Take it away, Evan.
Melissa, you're welcome to go. The thought has passed for me. I'll wait and see what else I have to say.
Oh, okay. Hi, Evan. Wow, this conversation has really stirred me deeply. I love everything Dharmendra shared and Dan, all of you. And I wanted to come back to really the comment that dear Nolan made. And I don't know if he's still listening in, but if he's not, I'll share this with him later. But
I am.
Oh, hi, Evan. Hi, Nolan. I really wanted to suggest that we stop dividing ourselves and separating ourselves into young, into old, into black, into white, into tall, into short, etc., smart and dumb, or whatever. We're all humanity. We all are gifted. We all have soul. We all can learn love. And I believe, and I experience this myself because this is what I practice, is that youth need the elder wisdom. We have many years of experience and we carry wisdom ways, or can carry wisdom that can be shared with youth. So I believe that what we need to encourage is that instead of creating a society where we put our elders on the shelf when they're over a certain age and then we don't listen to them anymore, which I believe is why there's a lot of dementia, actually, because we are forgetting. The elders are forgetting and they are being forgotten. That we rebuild community where all voices matter, where the young voices matter, where women's voices matter, where seniors' voices matter. And having been part of the Haida tribe, this is what they practice. Haida, Tlingit, Tsimshian, most First Nations practice this idea of family where all the voices matter, the children, the elders, they are part of all the dance events, all the gatherings, and they are not separated out. Their voices matter. They all dance together. And I believe we need to dance together again. This is the only way for us to move forward. And just a quick example, we have a neighbor, she must be in her 80s, and Jamin and I have kind of taken her under our wing, and we do stuff with her. Like, we took her on her first kayak paddle ever, which was super fun. And we're teaching her about loving nature and communicating with the animals. Like, Jamin and I have this really awesome raccoon family who turn up at our house. It's mama and daddy and 3 babies, and they're so awesome. And they just like ripping the flags on Bob's prayer flags to bits and swinging and happy, and they'll come bang on the door for food, and they hang out with us on the deck, and we're teaching that to her. And even though she's 80, she keeps saying to me, I'm so grateful for what you and Jamin are sharing with me, because I'm learning so much. I'm learning to think about the world differently, and I'm engaging in it with joy. And so for me, what I'm seeing is we need to be able, each one of us, and however we are gifted to do this, to help crack people open, get in touch with their emotions, and learn the joy and the beauty and the magic and the fun of living again. And then once we can do that, we're going to start caring for all living beings. We're going to also care for all the elements and one another, and can build this beautiful family rather than getting stuck in kind of analyzing. And I'm not saying that there is a place for that, of course. But of course, me being an artist, and this is my flowy, feminine way through the world, I just want to put that out there and encourage that. And that will be my medicine basket to this world. And I just love that each one of you bringing your particular gifts to this new tribe that we are becoming. Love all of you. Over and out.
Love you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Amen. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, Suzanne, please jump in.
I have a quick point specifically related to this. I think it ties in, Melissa, what you were saying really nicely to what Dan was saying about an older generation is not necessarily as tied to the system, and they have a lot of experience with the constraints of the system. And when Dan was saying that, I was already thinking like, yeah, we need to create connections between the people that have experience with the constraints and the younger generation that isn't yet enmeshed in the system and has a really strong interest in changing the system. So yes to all of that. Over and out.
Beautiful. And I want to really encourage what Suzanne just did, which is what I would call, a quick follow-on, right? Suzanne could have put herself in the queue, and then literally maybe 15 minutes later, she'd have an opportunity to say that. But as a quick follow-on to what anyone says, just feel free to jump in, right? The queue is for, 2 or 3 minutes. And by the way, when I put up 5 fingers, that simply means that 5 minutes have elapsed. I'm not saying you have to stop at that point, okay? It's just a guideline. We have a soft ceiling of 5 minutes-ish. Alrighty. And next in the queue, Evan, if you've got your thought, jump in. Great. Evan, followed by Debra, followed by Miles. Take it away, Evan.
Cool. Yeah, I really like what Melissa is saying and what Dharmendra and Dan and really everyone has had to offer. I've been really enjoying this conversation in general today. great conversation. I loved what, I'm just going to scroll up to read it. Melissa talking about how we need creative visioning and imagination and a whole lot of spirit and love. And I like this idea of creative visioning. This kind of builds off something that's been brewing in the back of my mind that I heard Terrence McKenna say about how it's the role of the artists to like dream and write and paint a moral vision of the future, and that if the artist can't find the way, no one can. And I like to think of art as sort of this bridging mechanism where we can express our creative, compassionate, loving force. And I think it's that force in the youth that makes so many people so often say, oh, like the youth are the future, we need to focus all our energy on the youth. And because there is a lot of truth in the youth and the energy that they have, because they're so recently having arrived from the source, the place of essence, and so they're a little bit less programmed. It's a little bit easier for them to access that creative energy. But then I really like what Dan was bringing up, and what Suzanne built on, which has kind of made me just like reframe this in my mind, is that it's the retirees, the people who have had time within a system, they are now like once again sort of liberated to allow themselves to just live completely free. You know, like they don't have to worry about working a job that conflicts. They don't have to worry about this conflict between their values and their actions anymore, and they can. And they have a lot of really good information. So I think we need to be speaking to that energy of like love and compassion that's within all of us. And I totally think that's what this conversation's doing. It's bringing that out in me. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
So beautiful. My goodness. I mean, and I just want to ask, quick poll, has anyone experienced anywhere else, online or offline, this amazing evolutionary conversation? Don't answer me now, or if you feel like answering me later, that's fine. But I mean,
I sure haven't.
Thank you, Noel.
Or the ways that I have, it's only been one way. I've been listening to somebody, but I haven't been able to fully interact.
Yeah, how many times do you watch a great TED Talk and it's just like, but you can't talk, you're muted, okay? This is like TED Talks in group, unmuted. Anyway.
Well, now somebody that watches this later, sometimes I watch a TED Talk from 7 years ago, and it has like 4,000 views, but I just think it's absolutely brilliant, and it makes me really sad that it doesn't have more attention. I'm like, I want to talk to this guy, right? That's what we're talking about, enabling people to do, is go back in time on whatever conversations and watch people, in their prime, so to speak, when they're really providing from essence and contributing to the conversation. Then we can take inspiration from that and reach back out to that person, or refer someone else to that person and start another conversation with someone else who's just interested in that, as you were in that person that gave the TED Talk.
Can I jump in real quick?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, you were asking about, has anybody ever had conversations like this? And unfortunately, when I first became aware of and had a kind of like permanent connection to essence, which does take a lot of meditation, I won't go into all that, but the bottom line is those conversations, I've had many of them, but there's a lot of things that were missing. There was no technology like this, so that we could talk to people from all over the world, all, in my opinion, everybody brilliant, and all coming from their own place of experience and awareness and wisdom and all those things. And so back then it was kind of like something that, yes, you could really tap into deeper wisdom as a collective that was all kind of like part of one symbiotic, holistic consciousness field that was being created spontaneously and generated by the intent of everybody present. But that's about as far as it went. I mean, people would go home and just go back to whatever. There were no major applications for it back then. And so I have to say yes and no, because yes, those conversations have been with me for, you know, a couple of decades now, but no, not like this. So I just wanted to share that, just to acknowledge that what's happening now is, I think, very cutting edge as far as where it's going to go, because where it's going to go is something that none of us, even with all our experience, knows, because it's going to be fresh and new. That's all I have to say.
So this is Ann, and I'd like to jump in real quick too, and just bring up the concept of Theory U by Otto Scharmer. He actually wrote a book in 2006 and developed something called the Presencing Institute at MIT. And they now have a very large internet experience where people from all over the world take the course. When I took it in 2007, it was all together, there were 200 people, but from every continent in the world, and speaking many different languages. And they have developed a number of social technologies that help us to get into a place of deep understanding to be able to solve some of these issues. And at some point, we may want to take a look at either developing one of the things that we're doing, one of the projects, through a Presencing Institute project, or we might want to look at some of the social technologies that they have developed that we would be able to use. So I'll write that out so that people can look it up and go to the website. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I love that. We got.
Can I hop back in real quick on what beautiful thing Ann just said?
Absolutely.
Is that and I think that all of that stuff is going to be like super useful, and hopefully everybody from that end of the Presencing Institute is open to blending with us. At the same time, I know Jamin will affirm this, but we're also kind of like developing our own unique way of doing that. It's kind of been more in the after meetings up until now, and I've only known Jamin for a little over a month, since just after the Climate Healers summit that happened here in Mesa, where I live. But yeah, it sounds interesting, because it'd be nice to see what other people are doing to develop those specific, I don't want to call them technologies, because presencing is one of those words that doesn't really, presencing is really not it's not a thing that you can be fixated. It's not fixating, it's flowing. It's much more about flowing awareness and consciousness than it is about being stuck in any one position. But anyway, I just wanted to share that would be fascinating stuff to look into, since a lot of that is already starting to be developed, like I said, in some of the after meetings with us here. I know with Jamin and I and Nolan and Evan and Benjamin and Suzanne, actually, also. And a little bit Dolly when she popped in, right? Anyway, just wanted to share that real quick. So that'd be fascinating to find out more about that as it relates to how we're evolving and opening it up also. I wouldn't use, I mean, I can't use the word presencing, it's already there, but that's a great word, presencing. I would probably use something more like dynamic witnessing, and in a very participatory sort of way. But anyway, enough said for now.
Thank you, Dharmendra. Debra, please take it away, Debra. Debra was been waiting patiently.
Okay, actually, I was just about to jump off, and I just put my comments in the chat. But all right, I'll just say real quick. It was just a follow up to the conversation that's been going on for a while. Yes, we have our programming, we have our beliefs, we have the things that get ingrained in us, but those can be changed when there's the same beliefs can be changed by the truth. And the truth is what really hits us when our heart gets awakened and gets jolted, and we actually are face to face with something and we can feel. And I think this is why the documentaries are so powerful in affecting change and getting people to change individually, and eventually affecting a larger scale change, because it's like the heart is, as Dharmendra was saying, that's what really connects us with our essence, our experience of our essence, and the part inside of us that knows. And that knowledge that the heart holds will override the knowing that the mind has been programmed into any day. And so I think if we can, I operate with that level, and I believe that's part of the collective consciousness shift that's going on, as we are coming into more of a heart-based consciousness rather than the mental programming, that we are going through that shift. So more and more people are coming into the ability to feel with the heart and make choices and decisions from that place. And it's, I think when we can speak to each other from that place, and that's part of that, seek first to understand and then to be understood. When we're communicating with people, I know I've had conversations with people who, are very different in their beliefs, but when we can really just come to that place of really seeking to understand each other and connect with each other and understand what's behind the thoughts and behind the beliefs and behind the, all of the programming, eventually we get to a heart connection that is, where we really want the same things. And then we can unravel all of that programming and come to a deeper understanding of things where really we want the same things, and we can change our choices. And I think it was Anne saying about her father. I live with my father now, who's 97 years old, and I'm just amazed at how much he's changed in his later life. And it just blows my mind every day. He has not gone vegan, though he does say he feels better when we eat vegan. And but just, in his cultural beliefs, racial beliefs, political beliefs, everything, how much he has come into an incredible softening where he's become very heart-based instead of the mental forge ahead that he used to be. So it can be done. It can be done. And I do believe that what's moving in our collective consciousness is paving the way for us to gain more ground there. So, and with that said, I've got to drop off. Thank you all very much, and I'll catch you next week, I hope.
Love it, Debra, and hope to see you later today as well. All right. Number of us in the queue. We got Miles, followed by Jamin, followed by Byrne, followed by Nolan, followed by Dan. And again, quick, interjects welcome at moments like this in between speakers. So next up is Miles. Take it away, Miles.
Okay, thank you. And with respect to what Dharmendra has been talking about, and Debra just finished talking about, this conversation about essence and truth and knowing from the heart, it is very important to address these questions as part of this collective intelligence. And that is because, I've recognized my own programming over time, knowing that something's not right. And if we're going to get to the issue of defining a problem, we actually have to ask ourselves, well, what is the truth of the values of our essence? And I've had conversations about this in depth, so collective intelligence on another channel, in a sense. And in fact, anybody who's interested in listening to a similar kind of an in-depth conversation facilitated by Zoom is my conversation last night on the Carl Jung Depth Psychology Reading Group channel, presentation called Pentecost and the Assumption and Coronation of Mary, a discussion session. Now, what we were talking about is the issue of Christocentrism, Christian centrism, in other words. And I was very much a centrist about, it's all about Jesus thinking. And I've changed because I've had to think with my heart, not just based on what somebody's told me. So essentially that means we have to actually get down to some serious questions of values. And in fact, I'll be signing off soon here to go to attend a session where, face to face, we're going to be talking about defining the problems of how it is that essentially we got here to climate change. How is it that we have missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada and the United States? And it goes back to this Christocentrism, if you really want to get to the core of it. And so it is about essence. What is the truth of the Bible? Did Jesus really expect or want? Maybe it's probably, I would say it's the last thing he wanted was a religion. In him, what he wanted was us to be religious about the values that Evan was just talking about, of love. And that means you can't go around saying it's all about Jesus and you're not going to be saved if you're not Christian. That's how we got into this mess on the so-called Turtle Island, North America. America means love of riches, by the way. How's that for obvious problem statement? Where love of riches, where a whole place is called America. Anyway, thank you for this excellent conversation, and I'll catch you on the replay.
Beautiful, Miles. Thank you so much for being here, brother. Really great stuff. Sonia has to go. So Sonia, did you want to say anything before you go? Anyway, yeah, we've been at it 2.5 hours now. So thanks to everyone for hanging in there. And Sonia, feel free to jump in.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm really learning a lot from all the comments and all the information, and I'm going to remain a little bit quiet until I have a better understanding of all these great topics. I appreciate I have to go. Work is calling me, but I wish you, with all my heart, a wonderful week. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye for now. All righty. Next up in the queue is Jamin, followed by Bern, followed by Nolan, followed by Dan. So, Jamin, so I want to talk about just getting back to this presencing thing. So I really want to reach out to them. I was a graduate student at MIT back in the day, and I have real standing at the place because I was elected ugliest man on campus. UMOC, UMOC. Do you know about that, Suzanne? Okay, yeah, anyway, so MIT, as people can imagine, is a place full of nerds, some of whom are very proud about our ugliness. And we don't really do anything about it. So anyway, no, but it's actually a charity raising thing. I'll talk about it later, but I was elected once a year, and I was ugliest man on campus, 1992. Anyway, and we gave a whole bunch of donations to Project Bread to feed the hungry. Okay. Anyway, so I'll get in touch with them, but my burning question is this presencing thing. Are they looking at it as like it's all about the medium? Let's, how do we create this great medium so people can connect and all that? But to what end?
No. It's about how each of us can become present with each other to see issues from each other's perspectives in order to find solutions. And some of the work that has been done worldwide is stunning, absolutely stunning.
All right, well then we definitely need the presencing folks to mix it up with us, right? Presencing meets radish. Right.
And they will be really happy to do this. I mean, if they aren't, I will be completely stunned because this is what they are all about. They are incredibly welcoming and inclusive. I think it might be a really, really cool thing.
Oh my goodness, there's no doubt. So Benjamin, Nolan, and I, and Michael, we're working on updating the homepage of Radish. That'll be really important for then interfacing with these people, because then we can say, hey, this is us, right? And speak it more clearly than it does now. Anyway, that's just a side note. So but you know, because the way I see it, just to kind of round out my previous comment about the medium, because a lot of it is about the medium and how we presence with each other and everything, but it's also about so many other things. I mean, so within Radical Collective Intelligence, you know, we do a lot of work on the platform, right? The technology and everything, like Zoom, right? It's no accident that we're using Zoom. It's the best video conferencing platform out there, period. And it's totally usable and has all these different ways of communicating. But it's also about where we're going. What's the mission, right? What are we applying all this presencing to, right? That's super important. So anyway, I can't wait to mix it up with them and all these other folks. This is all the different communities coming together. Presencing meets veganism, meets SRM, meets collective intelligence, meets arcology, meets holistic land management, meets, boom, 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 boom. We like to meet, but we don't eat meat. We only like vegan treats. And the next on the mic is my man Burn it up. What's up, Burn?
I want to throw a firecracker into the conversation. Yes. I want to ask everyone if they've seen Alan Savory's work, and if so, how do they square that up with the concept of veganism?
So I'm going to jump in first. Not only have I seen his work, I'm a friend of his. I interviewed him for an hour and 45 minutes. We got to get that video up on the homepage of Radish because we really mashed up collective intelligence with holistic land management. I went to his 2-day conference in Boulder, Colorado in 2016, hung with him for those 2 days. Anyway, so I know him very well. And I actually want to organize a conversation, not a debate, but a collective intelligence conversation.
Perfect.
Alan Savory and our very own Dr. Silas Rao. Let's get it on. Boom.
Perfect. Exactly what I was going to recommend.
Boom, 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 boom. Okay.
How do you, in particular, how do you see that, though? I mean, you seem to be headed toward veganism yourself, and yet 2/3 of the earth, according to Alan Savory, is desertifying, and partly because of the lack of ruminants and the lack of proper management, of course. So how do you square those two concepts? Veganism and that?
Yeah. So let me just answer that real quick, and then we got Nolan and Dan, so waiting in the wings. So although I think Dan may have taken off, but that's all right. Hopefully he'll be back. But anyway, here's how I square it. All right. First of all, what is Alan Savory's work in a nutshell? That basically, if we have managed grazing of livestock over areas that either have desertified or are desertifying, that reintroduces all the elements of basically plowing up the field with their hoofs, tilling the soil, turning it over the soil, defecating on it, urinating on it, grazing on it. All these are vitally important. Please watch the 20-minute TED Talk given by Alan Savory. If you haven't seen it already, it's got like 3 million views.
Very impressive.
Thumbs up, Evan. Anyway, I saw that and I reached out and I said, dude, I got to interview you. And he said, great. So we got on and we went for almost 2 hours. I got to send out that video to everybody because it was a cool interview. Can
you get him to come to one of these conferences, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Just be part of this group for a day.
Well, exactly. And then, bring in him and Silas, and then all of us will be in the nosebleed section.
Yeah.
Eating vegan hot dogs and drinking vegan beer and going, woo,
I may be eating beef, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Bern. All right. So next on the mic is my man. Oh, were you done saying what you wanted to say, Bern?
No, that's good for now.
Because the next
actually, I would like to see if anyone else has a reply on the subject, whether they've seen him themselves or whether they've squared it up in some way. Does anyone else want to comment on that?
I'd like to comment a little bit. I want to say that that's at least something that I've been thinking about, and it's cool to hear that other people have been thinking about that too, because I feel like holistic land management is sometimes thrown up as like it's in conflict with veganism, but I think it actually ties in pretty well with these principles of like creating a vegan planet and like returning some of these like places to animals to ruminate and to let them just like walk around, stomp the grass, and turn the deserts back into grassland. Yeah, because I mean, realistically, I don't think it's feasible that we would be living everywhere on Earth. There has to be some places just for the animals, but that's all I have to say. I don't have any solutions, but it sounds like a fun problem to work on. So.
And if you think about it, you know, a large part of this country was covered with bison, buffalo, you know, turning up for a really long time, and it worked really well. And the woods across the entire, at least North America, I don't know as much about South America, but North America was full of deer, different breeds, styles, whatever, of deer, and sheep that were indigenous, that lived here, that helped keep the ecosystem working perfectly. That kind of land management does not mean that we continue to eat them. It means that we give the land back.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
not to mention the megafauna that disappeared.
Mm.
I mean, you know, the whole continent was covered with it, and to a degree, it seems to me they built the soil. I mean, according to Alan Savory, when you take the bovines off the land dies. Like out west in this country, he said he was shocked to see some of the land that had been preserved, you know, quote unquote, to animals taken off, no farming, no and gullies the size of Mack trucks, the land just going away. Anyway, I just wondered, I would love to have him come on though and present that and see how that can be squared up. Because at this point, I don't see how it does. It seems to me the Earth needs these animals to, for one thing, there's a huge amount of carbon sequestration going on when the animals bring the land back to life again. I mean, think of a pasture with 10 cows in and millions of microorganisms, thousands and thousands of rodents and all those creatures. And now compare that to that same 10 acres or whatever it is to a monocrop, which is nothing but, let's say, a green pepper. Everything is dead. I agree, shooting a cow in the head is horrible because he's alive, he's a smart, intelligent creature, and I wouldn't do it myself, even though I would eat beef at this point. But compare that piece of land and what it's doing for the planet to the piece of land which is a monocrop, which is dead, the soil's being washed away. There's just one kind of creature there, and that's the green pepper or whatever it is. To me, those are hard to reconcile. I mean, to me, there's something there that has to be, you know, considered. That's why I'd like to have some people who have spent their life on that, like Alan Savory, and some vegan people that have spent their life on it too, to come in and put these opposing concepts together and see what kind of synthesis we might. Because I think that's what collective intelligence is going to be for us. Isn't that we're all experts, but that we bring on the experts and we synthesize. We are generalists. We're not supposed to be experts in one field. Plenty of those. We need to be thinking in the whole, like you're saying, Jimmy. And to me, that's a thought that's been running through my head for a few of these conferences. So I just wanted to, you know, see. And again, not just Alan Savory. There's a few other experts on subjects. One of them is Dane Wiggington, and you may have heard of him. He's the one who talks about the spraying that's been going on, the so-called engineering that's been going on. He says 70 years, and he has a huge amount of data, and he spends his life looking into this. So I think he's another candidate to bring on, and let's question it. Anyway, that's my thought for now. Bringing on the experts, people that know more about one subject than we do, then grilling him and trying to like synthesize that or negate it. Could be that people are wrong, but you know, assess these things. And it's possible that we already have groups that are together that I don't know about that are looking into certain details, like the vegan group, which is specific to a thing. So I may be ignorant on that subject as far as what kind of collective groups that are already going on. But anyway.
Can I jump in real quick?
Please,
Damon?
please.
Yeah, is this guy that we're talking about, this expert, is he vegan or is he a beef eater?
I believe he's eating the animals, but he also
Okay.
grows, one more thing. He when the land recovers that he's working with in Africa, he does grow vegetables, and the in the areas that have been regenerated and revivified.
Oh, okay.
So he's eating both, I'm sure.
Okay, so I just want to make one real quick point in relation to that whole view. I mean, I think it's great to revivify and rejuvenate the land. But what I see is with a radical collective intelligence platform, and it's inviting to everybody. I mean, it's not like anybody has to be anything, and there's no pressuring or forcing somebody to be something. So let me start with that. But what I want to say is when you murder a being to eat it, you are also eating their fear, you're eating their terror, you're eating their anger, you're eating all their dark emotions. That is becoming your chemistry. To me, that is counterproductive and actually a destructive energy when it comes to trying to pretend an actual collective intelligence. Because to me, if you really think about a collective intelligence, all beings are respected, all beings are loved, all beings are supported, or it's not intelligent. I don't know what it is. It's maybe partially intelligent, and maybe they're convincing themselves that this is a means to an end, and they do this, and then maybe eventually they'll get to that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just pointing out the fact that when you eat animals, you are absorbing very dark chemicals into your bloodstream. It's the source and base of all war on the planet. It's what's led to the petrochemical industry and all its support of war and everything. There's so many factors involved that need to be looked into when you start inviting in beings that have, I guess, maybe just not a whole lot of consciousness yet about what they're actually absorbing into their chemistry, and which is the most powerful effect on other physical beings around them is your chemistry. When we say I have chemistry, when two people have chemistry together, we all know what that means. It's powerful.
Well,
so that chemistry...
I was going to interject at this point, though.
Go ahead.
Isn't it true, though, that plants, given that they can't run away, produce an array of poisons to protect themselves that's like a chemistry that's beyond dispute? I mean,
think about it like this. Plants don't suffer. Animals do. Animals can work. Plants can't work. Animals do not suffer. Yes, you can record that they have vibrations in them that may look like what we would call vibrations of things that we would assume that beings with brains have. Plants don't have brains. You need a brain in order to process the fact that you are being put under pain or whatever. You need a brain for that. If you don't, and plants do not have brains, they are like a raw nervous system. They are like an instrument like that. And many of them obviously are made for us to eat. Just look at our teeth. Scientists have done studies on teeth formation and how we eat. We're fruitarians, basically. And so the whole thing about being taught that we have to kill other beings in order to survive is a big lie. And I'm just going to say it like it is, because it is a big lie, because it's destructive. Life is about life, not death. Everybody will die in their own time. If you're enforcing death on another being without asking its permission, without even considering its sacred right as much to be here as you are, then you are trespassing on that person's, that individual's being, and you are performing an incorrect act. That's all I'm saying. You can take it or leave it. You can come up with a billion rationalizations, but if you get into your heart and feel what I'm saying, it's a different story than the mental argument you're bringing up. And it's a brilliant argument. Can't argue. I mean, I can say, yeah, sure. And you can go, what? Well, wait, what? But I'm just telling you, it's not from your heart. You can't say this stuff and be in your heart. You can't, because you might as well cut your heart open then and eat that. Because that's what you're doing with animals, dude.
I agree, though, that if I had to actually shoot a cow, I probably wouldn't do it.
Well, doesn't it seem kind of chicken shit then that you say that and you still eat animals and leave it up to somebody else to do it? You might as well do it yourself then. It's chicken shit. And I'm a martial artist. Sorry, I get a bit intense and really focused and straightforward. I mean, no disrespect, but I'm going to say it like it is without any bullshit.
But among the people I would like to bring on, or at least to bring on to be questioned, are people that know more about the subject than I do. There are several people who have spent a lot of time and energy looking into the subject. And so I wouldn't want to necessarily be the one to talk about plant poisons when somebody else, Frank Tufano, for instance, can give you a dissertation in a half hour on the subject.
No, I understand, but why would you eat poisonous plants anyway? You eat vegetables.
Well, no, I mean, all the plants that you're talking about have various poisons in them to protect themselves from, they can't run away. They don't want to be eaten either. Okay, yes, they're not as intelligent.
They don't have a brain, dude. They can't even think. That's it. And if you don't have a brain, there's no possibility to reflect back to yourself. Well, maybe you don't. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'll talk. Whatever.
No, I was a vegetarian for a long, long time, so I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I really was until not too long ago. I became convinced the other way around. So I mean, I would rather eat plants. I enjoy plants better, and they're easier for me to eat. But I don't think they're the healthiest thing, and I also don't see them ecologically and in other ways too. But I think we should bring on some of these experts who can answer these questions in a way that I could not.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that would be a really interesting dynamic.
Suzanne has something to say. Please go ahead, Suzanne and Dharmendra. I'm going to mute you if you don't mute yourself.
I'm muting.
Sure. I have a couple things. One, Benjamin and I are vegan, and we came across that Alan Savory TED Talk, and we're totally thrown off by it. You know, we were confused by it and weren't sure what the right kind of land management strategy was. So we'd love to have that conversation with him as well, or, you know, be a fly on the wall maybe with him and Sailesh. And I will say, the idea of controlling the movement of other herd animals to solve our problem or our global problems still seems problematic to me. And like, if the idea is to move towards freedom and equality, then we shouldn't be controlling their movements so much. Just ideally, I don't know how we get there.
Yeah, we've discussed this for a while now and haven't come up with any great solutions.
Yeah.
But it is definitely something that's worth debating.
Yeah.
And I think that it's definitely a valid point. And Alan Savory and Sailesh Rao would be two very interesting people to hear talk about the.
Exactly. Can you get that done, Jamin?
Absolutely.
I mean, that would be the most spectacular conversation in my mind.
Yeah.
Because if veganism is the way to go, I mean, it's easy for me. I'd rather eat plants. So anyway, I'm off.
Oh, and I had one more point to that effect, and about plants and animals and pain and suffering, and monocrops. Actually, you know, you mentioned monocrops, and I think peppers, and I'm sure there are monocrops of peppers. But from what I've learned, the most monocropping we do is for animal feed. And, you know, you think about all the plants let's say plants do have feelings and want to live. All the plants we kill to feed animals that we then kill, who we know have feelings and want to live. You know, we'd have to grow much fewer crops to feed only humans. Than we would to feed animals who then humans eat.
Yeah, it takes 5 times the amount of plants to feed an animal than a ruminant animal than it does a human.
Or more, yeah, I don't know the numbers, but I know theoretically, yeah.
20x for beef, 7x.
20.
Yeah, for beef, 20x, for chicken, 7x.
Another thought, can I add real quick, Jamin, and then I'll shut up. I'm sorry, I promise. If you cut off a part of a plant, it grows back. If you do that with an animal, it does not. So just something to reflect on there.
Yeah. Now, I want to clarify something that Byrne was saying that I think got missed, which is that when Byrne was saying that plants have certain toxins to protect themselves, here's what he's not saying, and then I'll say what he is saying. What he's not saying is that because plants have brains that they think, oh, I'm going to produce some toxins to protect myself. They don't have brains like reptiles have brains, obviously, or primates or whatever. Here's what I think he is saying. He is saying that evolution right, cause certain toxins to just be produced in certain, like radishes. Let's take my own, logo, radish. Did you know that you can't just eat radish after radish? There's a reason that it kind of pushes back. Your body kind of rejects it. It's because it's full of toxins, right? So it's all about the concentration of the toxins. Eating one radish, good for you. Eating 10 radishes, you're probably going overboard. So that's why your tongue is rejecting it. So let your tongue be your guide. But Bern, did I accurately clarify what you were saying?
Yeah, that's good. Excellent.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I still eat my greens because I can't not do it. I just have to have them. But I've been convinced recently that animal foods are necessary for health, especially butter. And cholesterol, to me, it has been vilified unbelievably. And again, I'd want to have these experts come in rather than secondhand from me. But have you heard of Weston Price and his work? I'm sure you probably have.
Yeah. I'd love to point you towards a guy named Dr. Michael Greger. He has a website called nutritionfacts.org, and you can plug in any of these questions you have. He has accumulated scientific studies as up to date as he can possibly be on the food science of all of this. And I think you'd really be interested in some of the things he has to say. He speaks specifically towards questions like the ones that you're raising.
Or maybe we can bring him on.
Yeah. Or maybe we can bring him on. That'd be awesome too.
Truly. I think that should be our, kind of one of our protocols that we get into, and is bringing in these people that are, like, for instance, Dane Wiggington would come in, I'm pretty sure, to talk to a group of 16 people that are really, interested the way we are and open-minded, and tell you what he's found, and including this thing with, the solar radiation management up in the sky. You've seen the airplanes. That's not condensation up there. That stuff's being sprayed up there for one reason or another. And aluminum, he discovers gigantic amounts of aluminum in the rain. He actually does these studies. I mean, this is, to me, he says that you can't really talk about climate change or the effect on climate without including this subject. And I believe him. He says that, yes, there's anthropogenic warming and these things are true, but you wouldn't, they're not even as significant as these programs that these people are doing. So I think if we had him on here, we could really glean a lot of information from it. I encourage that. And Jamin, I guess, you're the one who knows a lot of people and you have a lot of credibility. I think if you could get that Alan Savory dichotomy with the other guy, I can't think of his name at this point, and maybe Dane Wiggington coming on as well on a different day. To me, that would be, I think you would accelerate the accumulation of interested people as well. I think it would go up to 32 in a hurry. Pretty soon we won't be able to see each other on the screen.
I think
anyway,
it'll blow past 32 so fast on its way to 64, and it'll blow past 64 even faster on its way to 128, and it'll blow. That's the nature of the exponential. But Bern, I just want to be loud and clear on my response to you. I am sold. Let's do it.
Okay, I love it.
And I want everyone to take as a homework assignment. Let's not speculate on it more right now. I say just take it as a homework assignment, because we could burn through hours just making a list of people. It's better to take this offline, and let's use this time, the remainder of the time that we have here, with something that's really kind of more co-generative from the people who are here. Yes, of course, standing on the shoulders of the giantesses and the giants, per Sir Isaac Newton. Anyway, that's my immediate, and Nolan's been waiting super patiently. Nolan, please take it away.
Well, I don't want to interrupt the flow of things. This is kind of getting at my critique of the queue in general, because I really want us to get into this meditation together. Anyways, I just like to take a second and recognize that this has been the best social club I've ever been a part of. And I'm really starting to see this thing become kind of an entryway, like to the overall collective intelligence in its like official form, so to speak, in the sense that the social club could be, it's almost like a talk show, right? And maybe every week we have a special guest, right? That's kind of like, they're the thing for this week, and they kind of lead the meeting or like co-lead it with Jamin, and then you know, maybe it becomes something that's that we have a larger audience, and it's not as it's not like three people just trading off talking. It becomes more of a talk show-esque thing, where there's kind of like featured speakers, and it serves somehow as a kind of funnel into the other collective intelligence groups that are forming. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, so would love to know what you guys are thinking. And I am actually knocking on Jamin's door right now.
Well, maybe I'll jump in then.
It's Frankenstein is awakening. Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm like on the same exact page as Nolan. Like, I think our brains work pretty close together, because that idea of just bringing on guests during the week, like, I'm right there with you. I was just thinking that. Yeah, the pot is stirring. We're getting in flow. No, but I think that'd be a really cool idea. Like just having Alan Savory on, kind of letting like the group pick his brain. So it's like you bring him into the collective intelligence, and all of a sudden now it's like we're this like fungal network who's just like kind of examining him and trying to figure out like oh, what's going on here, like, you know.
Good.
That's totally what I'm thinking. Is I think that would be awesome, and to do it with even more people than him. Just bring in people like Jamin. You talked about it in the past as like bringing people into the ring, but I think the ring can be this place where you like come in and then everyone kind of collectively brainstorms in this like positive way, so that like at the end, like Alan Savory leaves the meeting and he's like, oh damn, I'm part of the collective intelligence now. Like he's part of the network. He's like now a node, and he can't do anything about it.
When he says, yeah, I'm a part, it's like Silas, you know. He stuck his toe in the water and then just jumped in head first. Can you imagine when Alan Savory is a regular feature? Just a regular member. He just shows up, you know, eating a vegan cheeseburger, you know, smoking a cigarette, and hey, what's up, guys? You know, just hanging out. So I see it not so much as like, oh, the special guest that all the focus on them. I see it kind of more like the host of Saturday Night Live, right? You know, they kind of kick it off. They just say, hey, what's up? You know, tell a few jokes. And then they appear on a skit here and there. But most of the skits, they're just out in the back smoking a cigarette, eating a vegan cheeseburger, right? So, you know.
Right on, Jamin. I absolutely agree with that. That's how we need to see it. It's collective. Nobody's better than anybody else or special. Experts a lot of times get paid by special interest groups to say all their factual, really, you know, I know what's going on. It's better to eat animals. It's more healthy for you.
I got a Horseshack ooh, and I know Dharmendra knows who Horseshack is. I got a Horseshack ooh, man.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Check this out. And you might want to mute your mic because we're getting weird sounds.
I am. Just give me a chance.
Dang it, boy. Dang it. What you talking about? All right. A couple old codgers arguing at each other at the 5 and Dime store in rural Iowa, sounds like. Anyway, so here's the thing. As these crazy, violent primates that we are, with violence in our diet, violence in our culture and all that. Here's just a real simple hypothesis. It's called the violent primate organizing principle hypothesis. And here's how it goes. When a bunch of primates get together to have a meeting, there's this whole big break out your cock. Who's got the big cock in the meeting? I'm this, I'm that, I'm the chairman. My net worth is this, right? I'm more special than you. And they kind of have this whole positioning thing going on and constantly being maintained like an old broken down engine that just, it's oil leaks, it's coolant leaks, its spark plugs are failing, and you're just constantly investing in this engine, this machinery of social hierarchy, domination, right? Domination of animals, domination of women, domination of each other, ownership. I own this land. Guess what? All those meetings happen on somebody's land that they own. Establishing hierarchy immediately, just from the get. I mean, it's just like, it's, but you see how so much of our focus, but it's all kind of in the background, like wallpaper. You know, you get to the point where you don't notice it, right? But it's definitely there, and it's constantly an issue. Us shedding that old wallpaper, tearing down that old wallpaper, in fact, tearing down the walls and reintegrating with the forest, you know, Bambi style, right? Reintegrating with the web of life, right, is what we're doing here, right? We're getting rid of the rivalrous component. The rivalry leads to domination, right? The Rams are the most explicit about it. Go ahead, Evan, back to you.
I was just going to say that there's something that I've looked into in the past that seems to really tie in with what we're trying to do here, which people have probably heard of. It's nonviolent communication, which is like by Marshall Rosenberg. I watched like 3 hours of his stuff on YouTube, but the concepts are pretty simple. It's like what Jamin's saying, just about we're trying to move out of this who's right and who's wrong and who's better and worse mentality to what Rosenberg says, like moving out from that into everybody loving each other all the time. He's like, which do you want, you know? And it's a fair question, because we can figure out which ideas are better, but the people aren't the ideas, you know? Like people don't have ideas, the ideas have the people. And so we need to like separate the ideas from the people and then turn the group into this place, like Jamin is saying, this like place of where it's not who's better, who's worse. And I even feel now like me interjecting to even talk about it, it's like, what is that part of me that just wants to like talk about it, you know? And I think that's like a nice part of this open communication and dialogue is we see ourselves reflected in the group, and I think we all grow because of that. And I know I certainly have. And I'm eager to see this like nonviolent way of life with veganism and our communication to just like spread exponentially, because it's one of those things that once you realize that's an option, I think like undoubtedly like people are going to want to hang out in that world versus the I'm right, you're wrong world.
Yeah. Exactly. We're simply creating, you know, a safe place to hang out. Let's say, you know, you're in a mixed community public middle school like I was in Seattle, Washington for 7th grade and 8th grade. You could either go to a place after school where people would smoke cigarettes and fight, or go to a place after school where it's safe and you read books and tell stories and do homework together and all that. Where do you want to hang out? And look, it's up to you. It's not like we're going around like the Gestapo trying to round up the people who go to the fight club. And, you know, we're just, our doors are wide open and there are rules here. And it's a safe space. No fighting, right? And, you know, I was once in charge of a park when I was, you know, growing up, and do after school programs with kids and all kinds of cool stuff. And one afternoon, these two guys were about to get into a fight, and I just got in between them because I knew I was safe, just because I was standing for peace. And I said, look, you guys, if you want to fight, I'm not saying don't fight. I'm just saying don't do it in the park. This is a kid-friendly, family-friendly place. If you want to fight, just take it outside the park. right? And that was my point. And that totally deflected it. And they ended up not fighting, right? One of them shouted a few threats and backed off, but they weren't going to override my authority, right? We're creating a new authority here. It's called, hey, if you're going to go destroy a planet, go join Star Wars, fly a Millennium Falcon somewhere and start blasting with laser beams, but one where there's no life, right? If you want to screw up a planet, go screw one up that doesn't have life on it, right? Don't do it here. I'm not saying don't blow up planets, just don't mess with the ones where there's life. It's too precious, right? Well, Melissa says don't blow up anything. But you see, I was just showing how mine becomes a deflecting energy rather than a confrontational energy, right? If I had said, hey, you guys can't fight, right, then I'm in opposition to them. What if you were able... Can you hear Melissa? If you can't, oh yeah, thank you, sweetheart.
I have a slightly different take on this, Jamin. I'm just thinking, what if you could be an interlocuteur, they say in French, like a interpreter for two sides that can't see eye to eye or hear each other, so that their fighting is actually de-escalated rather than escalated. And I'm just thinking of an experience I had. I grew up on a Greek island called Cyprus in the Mediterranean. I went to a British school, and very nearby, there were Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot children, youth. It was a high school. And I was out with my English friend, and there was a gang of English, it was on a military base, British military base. So there was a gang of British kids and a gang of Turkish Cypriot children and high schoolers, and they're coming at each other, and they're aggressive, and they want to have a fight. And me being an American, I got in the middle, and I talked them down. But it wasn't saying don't fight. I mean, it wasn't saying go and take your fight somewhere else. It was more trying to talk with them about their own worth and value. Even though they were different, they didn't have to fight. And it actually worked, and I was really amazed that it worked. So that's where I come from anyway. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I think there's another way to negotiate. Yeah,
great, sweetheart. Love it.
I'd like to jump on and just say I totally agree with what Melissa's saying, because the way I see this situation on planet Earth is there's not like another place that people can go to. Like the idea of the Millennium Falcon, I think like what you get with, I think it's kind of where you're trying to go, is saying that like, oh, we can't just go and fight somewhere else. So maybe we just need to make peace where we're at, because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, exactly. You see, because like, even if they were to hypothetically go and fight someplace else outside the park, presumably they'd have to have a conversation and agree to where to do it and what time. And by then they're working together, and they've lost the fight vibe, right? So, I knew that's what was going to take to end it. But rather than oppose their wills, I just said, hey guys, I just got in between, kept them apart, and said, if you want to fight, just outside the park, not here. Right? And they couldn't really argue with that. Right? So, and again, one of them just yelled something and took off. Right? So, but bottom line, there's a lot of ways. By the way, Amira wrote some cool stuff I better read. And above, and oh my goodness, so much good stuff. And then Anne, okay, you were just saying goodbye to Anne. Okay, Anne, what amazing contributions! Goodness. Anyway, Anne, anything you'd like to say before you jump off?
No, I love this. This was a fabulous, fabulous meeting. I wish that I could stay, but with the 3-hour time difference, I just got to take care of a couple things before the next meeting. So
totally appreciate that. And look at how the sun never sets on the collective intelligence empire.
Right. There you go. There you go. Love you guys.
All right. Love you, Ann. Thanks so much. See you in a bit. See ya. Wow. Phenomenal.
Real quick, I got to go too, so I'm just going to say goodbye. And
can you join us later, Dharmendra?
Yes, I can, but not like, 4:35. Where are you going to be at that point? Going to send out a link for the vegan thing, or
Yeah,
how's that going to work?
We're going to send it out a little before 3 p.m. And then we'll just jump in at 3 p.m. Pacific time, which I think is whatever time it is for you.
4, yeah. It's 3:12 right now where I am. But yes, I'll jump back in later. If you send me a link, I'll be, can't wait.
Oh, awesome. We can't wait to see Dharmendra. All right.
And I'm really happy from my point of view as I'm leaving to just say, it sounds like it's starting to get cooking. And so this is, I think, going to be really fun.
No, this is exponential cooking. And we've done a lot of the cooking right here in this kitchen, right?
And I hope I haven't been too intense for some people, and they may have viewed it as I'm just very assertive, not aggressive. And when it comes to things I stand for, I just stand for them. And I don't, but I can always go with the overall, the greater good of the flow. And there's lots of different viewpoints on how to communicate violently, non-violently. I think once you get that peace begins on your plate, then anything you do is going to actually have a peaceful essence to it anyway. I don't see how it couldn't, So love all you guys, and I'll catch up with you later. Take it easy. It's been so much fun. I love it. Bye.
See you. Bye. All right, and I want to read something that Amira wrote. Fun fact: a massive energy shift is to happen within the full moon tonight.
Woo! Yeah.
Your dreams to come true.
Oh, nice.
Everyone meditate with the moon tonight.
Okay.
My dream is everyone will wake up and go vegan, and the climate crisis will end.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Amira.
Lovely.
Beautiful. Thank you, Amira. What an amazing group we've had today. We've had, at peak, 17 people? No, more than that. I don't know. I lost 22. Goodness. This is exponential growth, everybody, right? We started the social club 2.5 years ago. And there were times where just a couple of people would show up. From 2 to 22, yo. Boom, boom, boom.
22 is a master number.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm starving. I'm in the mood. It is time for vegan food. Don't give me meat. Don't give me cheese. Only vegan, if you please. Vegan is the way to the heart and the mind. And sometimes you fart if you eat too many beans with your vegan cheese. And this is down. You like, is that like you're smoking or something? And you're just like, anyway, I don't know. Yeah.
Cool down.
Cool down, yo. Right? This is just super dank. What could be danker? Right? And look, you manifested in real life. You're like here. It's like, woo! We got like,
yeah, that was pretty cool.
3D printing of humans inside video conferencing.
Well, I think we're gonna take a short break before the next meeting.
That's a great idea.
Food break.
Food break.
Food break. Great. It's 2:15. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to share or talk about before we break before the vegan meeting?
I just want to congratulate everyone.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was super awesome. I'm feeling really inspired, and I'm super stoked for this next meeting too.
Well, and also, we're going to bring this energy, this philosophy, this spirit, this collage of perspectives all in to the next meeting, right? And it's like the people who do like 3.5 hours on social club, 3 hours on the beat. We're just like these hardcore, bikers, collective intelligence, right? Yeah. And
Benjamin, was it you that talked about this guy Gregor?
Yeah.
What's the first name or whatever information I need? I'm gonna look him up.
Michael Gregor,
Michael.
Gregor.
Okay.
Oh,
ER? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good.
ER.
That'll help. Oh, I just want to make sure I get the right guy.
And
Yeah.
I think Amira actually wrote in the chat, his website is nutritionfacts.org, and I think that link is in the chat.
All right, I'll get that down. Thanks. Good deal.
He also has an awesome TED Talk that's pretty recent. We just watched it within the last couple of weeks. That's he doesn't go into super detail, but it's a great intro to what his spiel is.
Excellent. Yeah, that'll come up on YouTube. Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks, sweetheart. All right. Anyway, I'm just so psyched. Just want to reinforce what everyone has said, and this is the best one ever because this is exponential growth in collective intelligence. It's just going to keep getting better. Mm-hmm. The syntheses, the plural of synthesis, the syntheses are going to get just more and more tight, more and more delicious, more and more obvious, like the kettle on the stove, just spouting it out, you know. And then so we're going to constantly have, you know, essentially stronger and better architected shoulders of giantesses and giants upon which to stand, right? And just keep building that Barcelona human tower ever taller with ever more millions pushing, you know, on the sides, right? And then the second floor looks like a whole plaza in itself, right? And the third floor, a smaller plaza. And so you got plaza after plaza after plaza. And then the top of the human tower, let's just keep breaking records for Barcelona human towers of collective intelligence. That's a great visual metaphor. Thank you for what we're doing here. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's uncorrelated that Barcelona is just this amazing center for, you know, so many things, arts, culture, right?
Totally.
Moving to my sister.
And
right.
They're radical. They're Catalanians.
They're Catalanes.
Say
Wow.
radical.
Wow.
All right, we're going to sign off.
All right, great. So we'll see everybody for the 3 p.m. vegan collective intelligence meeting. And
do you want me to send that out on Basecamp, or how do you want to proceed there?
Oh yeah, I'll set it up and I'll have it ready to go. I'll email you the link and a quick little email in a few minutes.
Okay, cool.
You can post it anytime before 3.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone.
We'll see you soon.
And thank you all for watching. All right. And thanks everyone for watching. And please join us. Sign up on radish.org. There's no money involved in radish.org. Never will be. It's just a total gift to the world. So where you can give your gifts to the world by joining this conversation and participating and sharing the best ideas you've got, the best insights, perspectives, connections, you know, all of it. Just come and join us. So please sign up on radish.org, not .com, .org, as in organization, as in org. Woo! Okay, great seeing everyone. And we'll see you all soon. And the vegan meeting starts in half an hour or so. 40 minutes. All right, wonderful. Arigato gozaimasu. Thanks, everyone. Anything more to add, anyone? We don't have to hang up, right? You're on mute, Evan, and it's cool. I don't know.
Could we maybe just pause recording?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And we'll even stop it if we need to. But for now, we'll pause. And then, okay, we're back recording after a pause in the middle of some really great stuff. You want to synthesize for us a little bit, Evan, if you wish, but no pressure, or Bern can?
Maybe Bern can, because I kind of just caught the tail end of what he said.
Well, the thing that I feel like there's a lot of collective intelligence in the world, but it's almost all distorted in some way by money, by power, by, you know, these, like that person you were talking about in the group who didn't want to have it public until he could get paid. To me, the thing about this group that's so powerful is that it's anarchic. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have a distorting lens relatively. I mean, we're all, we all have our own lens. We're all going to distort things a little, but it's less distorted and it's more potentially capable of learning and developing rather than just being stuck in some very narrow pathway. So to me, that's what's so exciting about this group and this whole participation. I've always wanted to be part of a group thinking. People who are not just reacting to their past, but thinking and looking forward, finding out new things. To me, I don't want to hear what I already know. That doesn't help me. I want to hear what I don't know. I want to be disagreed with. I want to hear people who do have spent their whole life, like Alan said. I would never have even given, I always assumed he took the animals off the land would be perfect. And then he comes along and says that's what he thought too for years. And he killed 40,000 elephants. And that didn't help. The land got worse. It was the worst thing he ever did. So that kind of thing, to me, that's the excitement here, is that this group is anarchic and capable of developing as time goes by. And especially I feel like if we start bringing in people who know a lot about a little bit of something, and we synthesize people who know a lot about one thing and a lot about something, we're the, in the sense like Buckminster Fuller said, the generalists, people who are not narrowly focused, but focused in a wide way, which could be that too diverse. Didn't have experts, and there's plenty of experts. Let's face it, the world promotes specialism, so that's why we're so needed, because we're the ones who are taking the specialists, but generalizing. So to me, that's what's so exciting about this.
Very well said. You know, we're having a little trouble hearing you, Bern. So if you can solve the microphone thing between now and the next meeting, that would be
okay.
awesome.
I may have to add what do you call it? Some power to the thing. I have microphones that you can sing into.
Suddenly, you're about 15 times better, more clear, louder.
I guess if I get close to the mic.
Okay, so you want to resynthesize, and by the way, the synthesis. This is not a waste of time, everybody.
No, okay.
I'm going to take a quick call, but I'll let you resynthesize. I'm going to go on mute here, and I'll be right back in a couple.
All right. Well, just to put it together, that it seems to me that there's a lot of collective intelligence in the world, but it is almost always distorted by a power structure, by the need for the next money that you're going to make, or in academia, there's things you can't say or you can say because that's the way they've set it up. The thing about this group that's so powerful in my mind is that the people are not mostly hooked into any particular thing. They're not trying to make a buck for the next thing they say, or they're not hooked into something that's. In fact, a lot of us, I think, are retired people who are no longer beholden to a particular set of thinking. So we kind of have an anarchy in the best sense of the word. People who are capable of thinking according to what they see in front of them and not according to the reflection they're getting back to themselves from the mirror they're always looking into, or the need that they have, the present need for this or that. Very open-minded and capable of advancing. See, that's the key. If you just have a set of thoughts and it's not going anywhere, that's not interesting. But this group is capable of advancing and it's synthesizing. And that's why I keep thinking that if we bring together some of these experts that are specialists, they need us and we need them. They know more about something that we don't know, and yet we know we have the ability to put it together and to bring all the different specialisms into a focus, hopefully. I mean, that would be our goal. That would be the kind of collective intelligence that doesn't exist and that the world needs, I feel. And this is, a lot of this is, I think, very influenced by what Buckminster Fuller taught, which I kind of missed him in his real life. I just got interested in him kind of after he had died. But I don't know how much you've looked into what he said, but I think one of the titles of his book is called Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. You ever heard of that one?
Oh my goodness! One of the members of Radish, one of the team members, going back over 2.5 years, is Michael Gosney, the most senior member of the Radish team. Which really, I invite all of you to be part of the Radish team. It's not an exclusive thing. But anyway, he was both a board member for the Buckminster Fuller Institute and gave a TEDx talk on, the control room for Spaceship Earth, or what did he call it? Control panel?
Cool. The world game, too, that he invented.
All that.
Yeah.
Anyway, he gives a great TEDx talk on it. This is Michael Gosney, Gosney.
Okay.
So check him out. And he, from time to time, is on the social club, but more often on Radish meetings. Anyway, another just powerhouse. And he's also an expert in arcologies. He worked with Paolo Soleri.
Wow.
No. The dude, it's like the guy with the proverbial trench coat who just throws it open and there's a zillion, needles and pills, powder. I mean, it's just like, whoa, right?
Yep. Well, in 1990, on Earth Day, they had a big exhibit of Buckminster Fuller's, all of his artifacts up here near Poughkeepsie, New York. And my brother and I were invited to make all the signs for all the objects because nobody knew what the hell they were looking at. So we were both Buckminster Fuller students in a sense. So we made the signs, and we also made a great big tensegrity structure for the exhibit that they had. One of these, I don't know if you know what tensegrity is.
No.
A structure that basically, it's made out of wires and sticks of various, one kind or another, and the sticks don't touch each other. So the thing acts like a ball.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we met his daughter, and, it was a very interesting exhibit, and it still travels around, I think. They still bring it to various places. And Bard University, actually, is where it was. You may have heard of that.
Awesome. Well, this is a place to bring in all these perspectives and all these teachings and writings and accumulations and crystallizations of knowledge from all these diverse, amazing people, organizations, movements, right?
Yeah.
Tools, systems, you name it. It's time for it to all come together. And that's exactly what collective intelligence is all about. First, bringing together the people into conversation, into series of conversations, into networks of conversations, all transcribed, all the transcripts indexed, all happening in real time. So you can just go in and say, all right, who's talking about permaculture using rutabagas on, the walls of skyscrapers? So they just type in permaculture, rutabaga, skyscraper, advanced search, bam. Here are the conversations that are happening right now. Where are they happening? It's immaterial. Just click on the link and join. Who cares where in the world people are? Obviously, some people care, but you get my point. It's not a place thing. It's in this virtual place where everyone can go anywhere at any time. It's the Star Trek 1969, transporter room where you get teleported to different planets, get teleported to different conversations with the click of a link. What do you think? It is
true. In fact, one of the books that he wrote, you'll love the title. You may even have heard of it. It's called Utopia or Oblivion.
Yeah. Well,
what a title.
No, and that's it. I love the title says it all. And that's basically the same. That's basically at the heart of the message that we're giving to Pacifica and to California as a whole is, retreat or stand your ground. Take your pick. Right? We're really saying the same thing. It is binary. And,
I think if we aim, when we think about it, we shouldn't aim too low. I think rather than thinking of just solving problems, which there are a great number and they're bringing us to extinction, we should really envision a world that is so much better than the world that we've even envisioned up to this point. I mean, and that's where Buckminster Fuller was brilliant. And he was, that's why he said utopia. He didn't say survival or oblivion, because the world, in fact, in some respects, some of us live in a world that is a utopia compared to, the past. If you said to Julius Caesar, someday there will be hot running water coming out of your faucet, he would have said, well, that's utopia, just that, I mean. So even though we've been brought to our knees by a lot of these power structures, I think we should, before we eliminate them, we should give them thanks. Because up until recently, we couldn't have had a collective intelligence of this nature. And these evil folks gave it to us in a way. I mean, so I think they have to all be brought along. I think we should give thanks as well as saying, okay, we have to move on. You brought us to this point, and now we have to move to a new way of thinking about things. And I think this is what our task is, in a way. And I think we've got the right kind of people, and you've set up the right kind of situation, and the Zoom people have given a resource that's invaluable. I wouldn't have known about it except for you guys. In fact, the first meeting I saw was the one with Guy McPherson, and that kind of hooked me, because I've been listening to Guy McPherson and his dire thinking, and I don't want to go down without a fight, and none of the people on this group want to go down without a fight either. But I do believe Guy McPherson has a lot to say that's right, and I think we should bring him on every now and then to tell us how we're going wrong. I think that's going to be his best role.
Well, if I may jump in, Bern. So I brought exactly that same sentiment to Guy McPherson. Hey, let's not go down without a fight, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And from 2.5 years ago, I've been, every once in a while just injecting into his brain solar radiation management. How about it? Well, he finally, got this researcher at Harvard, Dr. Ye Tao, who's working on solar radiation management, also reached out to Guy McPherson with fundamentally the same message. Guy finally put 2 and 2 together, connected me with Dr. Tao, and then we put together what is now the SRM Collective Intelligence. It's fledgling. It took that glancing blow from the whole world of money, of, hey, I'm not going to do this until I get paid, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, the world depends on that carbon thing, and I think the idea of bypassing or going around the question of reducing carbon, which is much more difficult than just reflecting sunlight, I think that was brilliant. That was one of the things that I hadn't thought of at all. I mean, that hadn't occurred to me, that you could bypass, at least temporarily.
No.
Obviously, in the long term, I think 1,000 parts per million, the humans start to get sick from it. So, I mean, there's an actual poisoning going on once you get to around 1,000 or something like that.
No, and listen, Dr. Ye Tao has a whole presentation where he goes deep into all that and just how toxic CO2 is, and just the limits of survival. I mean, right. He takes a totally scientific standpoint.
It was a beautiful presentation, even though it was very short that particular day. And he explained something that a lot of people probably don't know, which is that CO2, up to a point, plants like more CO2, and then beyond that point, no longer helps the plants, and then it becomes poisonous at another point, not that far into the future. So,
yeah,
to me, all that's really important to know.
Right, right.
How are you going to solve a thing if you don't know what the hell it is?
Exactly. And then ultimately, what's most important is, what do we do with all that information? The grand synthesis is, we have to do SRM now, not 10 years from now, not 2050, not 20. No, we got to do it now, and literally do it. I mean, millions of square miles of the stuff. So talking about anything else, frankly, is rapidly becoming obsolete. And
and by the way, my family works in plastics, and they mold plastic things, so there could be some role for them in prototyping, some let's say some modeling, let's say, of particularly the one I thought was very powerful was the floating on the ocean reflected, because the ocean absorbs 90%, and now it would be reflecting 90% or whatever. Exactly. To me, that's a big, big difference.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's it. And you're not walking on any human's quote unquote real estate if you're out in the middle of the ocean with a massive array of reflective mirrors. I mean, it's just
exactly.
It's such a beautiful, elegant. So I would venture to say, if Buckminster Fuller were alive today, that'd be the solution he'd come up with.
I think you're right.
All right.
Yep.
Hey, we need to take a break because we got.
Yes, I understand that. Okay, I'll be on next Tuesday.
All right, and if you want to join the vegan one as well, I think you'd be very welcome there.
I don't know. I'm throwing that would be throwing dynamite in, I think.
No, you don't have to announce to everyone what you're eating.
No, but can I email you during the week, just as a regular person email?
Please, please, please.
Okay, yeah, because I may have an essay or two. I tend to think in essays.
Great, love it. And then we can use those as starting points for other meetings.
Cool, cool.
Great to see everybody.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to head out.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Take care, Jamin.
You too.
All righty. Bye.
Bye. All righty. Aliani, Amira, Evan, Nolan, and Jamin, thank you all for going the distance. And we will be back. 007 will return on the vegan collective intelligence meeting starting in 18 minutes, which I got to set up. All right. Great seeing everyone. Thanks a million. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. And please join radish.org. Sign up on radish.org. It's there's no money involved, never will be. It's just a gift to the world. And that way, that's your access point to join literally this conversation and others like it. We're growing a whole network of conversations like the next one we're about to have on vegan collective intelligence. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you all so much. See you soon. And Amira says, see you all later. Awesome. Thank you, Amira. And thanks, everyone. Okay. Take care, everybody. Stopping recording now, unless anyone has any last words before I stop. Looks like we're good. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.